Because you've got powerful legs. How'd you get the physique? Was it gym or how'd you get the physique?
I've always been...
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing or mine.
Move him out of here, Darren.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome, everyone, to the 578th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse, proud member of the Sports Social Network, and you can catch us every Sunday. Well, not every Sunday anymore. About 3 out of every 4 weeks of the month, you can catch us on Sunday at 8 o'clock in the UK. That's going to be at 3 o'clock Eastern Time in the States, 12 Pacific. We're happy to see you guys every week that you can make it out and join us. I'm your host, Matt D. John Arda. With us today, we have Dez, we have Dom. Hopefully we're going to have Rob as well. Andy is on vacation. He has a sunburnt head from what I saw, the poor guy, but it looks like he's having a great time doing what he's doing. And we wish him the best. But it was a very odd kind of weekend in boxing. And even though the thumbnail for us involves Foster, that's not where we're going to start this week. Let's start with the main event on that one. Shakur Stevenson taking a wide unanimous decision over Artem Hartunian, forcing Hartunian onto the back foot and unable to get the stoppage. Not for a lack of trying, though. He definitely was walking forward, doing the old Ollie Sherman tank, but unfortunately just wasn't able to finish the job there, although he did hurt Hartunian a number of times in the fight. That was a wide fight, but I got to tell you, Des, the fight before it wasn't very entertaining whatsoever, and it seems like, and we saw a video that there are fans walking out the 12th round of the Shakur fight in his hometown in New Jersey. Rough night, man. I mean, it was just 24 consecutive rounds of for most of the fans in there. And that was, you got to say that Shakur probably gave the tightest performance of all four involved.
Yeah. It was all laid on for Shakur last night. And it was, like you mentioned, it was out in New Jersey. He was headlining the card. He was fighting, he was defending a WBC lightweight title. It was all laid on for Shakur, and if it's his last fight with Bob, I'm amazed he didn't want to put on a show. And I'm amazed for so many reasons: for the fans, for the people that turned out, for the potential new networks that want to bring him in, for other promoters that will be keeping their eye on Shakur. I'm amazed he didn't try and make a statement last night. You're quite right. Fans were walking out by the 10th round, and by the 12th round, you could see it clearly. It was visible. And I don't quite know what to say about Shakur Stevenson. He's a huge talent. And when he puts it together, he's got absolutely everything in terms of speed, accuracy, shot selection. His defense is really good. what I noticed about last night, and this might be in his DNA, or it might just be a condition he's picked up because of the place he's in at the moment. But he doesn't seem to want to sit down on his shots. He doesn't seem to want to cut the ring off. He doesn't want to take fighters down little pockets and corridors of the ring and put them under pressure. And I think that's probably Shakur's big problem. He doesn't want to take himself out of a comfort zone, which will put it on his opponent.
Do you think he might be
Now,
chinny, Des?
Say that again. Sorry, Dom.
Do you think he might be chinny?
I mean, Dom, this guy is an elite amateur. This guy went through the card. I mean, it's 50 states, 450 million people. This was the #1 US amateur rep. He's come through the pros. He's not been touched. But this is not the first time we've seen this of him, Dom. So, in answer to your question, no, I don't. I think he's brash. I think he's confident. I think he's cocky. But what could have happened, Dom? Lifestyle, what he's earned, what people around him say about him, maybe it's softened him up a little bit. Maybe there's a pressure to this now where he thinks, I'm going to do this in the first gear with as much damage limitation as possible, with as little jeopardy as possible. But last night, Dom, I saw a kid fighting who was so risk adverse. And I can't say, we'll come to Keyshaw Davis in a bit, but it was almost like two polar opposites. And maybe Shakur's had probably too much too soon, but that's me guessing. But factually, what I did see, I see a kid that was quite happy to be very risk adverse, not come out of a comfort zone, keep as little jeopardy in this contest as possible, and go through the motions.
But he did that while walking forward too. That's kind of the thing that's a little bit contrary to that, is he was the aggressive fighter. He was moving forward.
He wasn't putting the shots together, Marty. He was coming forward, but he wasn't going through the gears. It wasn't as bad as previous fights because he was stepping to Hart Union. He was coming forward, but I didn't think he was going through the gears. And
I will say this, Dom and Matty. At that level, Matty, it's not about just walking forward. It's about cutting fighters off. And I think Shakur said himself in his interview, I'm still not cutting fighters off. He's not looking for people. He's going through the motions. And you're quite right. Last night you see him walking forward, but he didn't have no intent to cut the ring off and take his opponent into a dark place.
It's weird to try to cut the ring off on guys when you're used to guys trying to cut off the ring on you, though. It's I can see that. And like, I even remember, even though he stopped him in the farce of a fight that it was, when Mayweather really started trying to push Conor McGregor back, he wasn't really cutting off the ring very well, but McGregor didn't really have particularly good footwork, and he was exhausted. The guys that are used to being on the back foot don't always do well with that. If you noticed, when Shakur was doing his best, it was when he found himself in the middle of the ring with Hartunian, and Hartunian decided to put a few shots together, and Shakur was able to punch with him, find the holes.
But Matty, this is to me, this is what's really interesting, because I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought the 9th round was very, very interesting, because that was one of the rounds, I think, where Hart Union, he did manage to get inside and stay inside and throw with Shakur, and Shakur was throwing with him. And I thought Shakur, it was only for about 30 seconds, but he got touched up just for a brief moment, and then he seemed to go back to doing what he had been doing up until that point in the fight, which was just keeping it at arm's length, even though he was coming forward. But I thought that he failed those shots, that he not, like, he wasn't getting caught flush, but he was getting caught on the body and on the shoulders, whatever. But I just thought, is he a bit uncomfortable there? And it was the only stage in the fight where he got, for a brief point in the 9th round, early in the 9th round, and then he just went back to doing what he had been doing. But I had the same thought as Des, what Des said there. At the beginning, watching the fight, I was like, if this is your last fight on the network and with Bob, why wouldn't you want to go out there and put on a display for all potential suitors. You know, to show what you've got. I mean, Eddie Hearn's been saying in recent weeks that he would love to sign him, but he needs to do a job with him. You know, he's been coming out and he's been saying, "I'm not the star that I think I should be," and then he fights like that where you feel if he really wanted to get the guy out of there, it's there for him. You know, you can't deny the skill. He's such a a skillful operator. You know, he's got everything. You know, he's you know, you're watching him and some of the combinations he throws are beautiful. Like he throws that. There's two in particular really stood out for me. It's the left hand of the body followed by the left hook upstairs, and then the left hand of the body by the right hook upstairs. Two beautiful combinations, and I really liked his body work last night as well. And there's a trait that he has that I think is common to a lot of brilliant Black American fighters like Roy Jones, like Floyd, is that they're so good they almost dispense with the jab. But when they do use the jab, you almost would want to see them use it even more because it's tremendous when they do use it, but they're so good that they can just do without it. But yeah, that's what it says so far on it. But it's strange, you know.
Something you said there, Dom. Eddie showed an interest in signing him, but Eddie also publicly said the conversation he had with Bob was, "I can't afford to pay him what you've been paying him." So that might link into what I said earlier. Maybe Shakur's had too much. Maybe he's been paid too much. Maybe he thinks he's there. Now we all want to see. Go on.
I would also say I'm not disputing that. What I would say is on what I would want to know that conversation between Eddie and Bob. I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie sort of adding a bit of VAT to that story of saying, you know, how much is Bob paying him? Is he really paying him as much as Eddie is letting us believe that he's paying him? Do you know what I mean? It's in Eddie's interest to say, you know, I'm not saying, obviously I'm sure he's being paid a healthy sum, but it's in Eddie's interest to sort of, you know what Eddie's like, he'll like to put arm down and say he's paying over the top. Eddie loves to think of himself as someone who doesn't pay, you know, beyond what's value for money. I know it's amazing when you think about
Jesse Vargas is laughing hysterically.
Mikey Garcia is laughing as well, Matty.
Yeah, and Tevin Farmer. They're all
and
getting
Dimitri Andrade. Yeah.
Everyone's getting a big kick out of this.
Nevertheless, that's what he thinks of himself as someone. He prides himself on, you know, not paying people more than they're really worth. I think maybe
Dom, to come back to that point, Dom. Right, so Matty and you were discussing it. Like, so Matty said, "Well, we see Shakur sort of moving. He was on the front foot last night. We're not asking Shakur Stevenson to be a Turo Gatti. I don't want to lose the skill and the sublime brilliance of Shakur Stevenson. But when you're in the dominant position and you've got a fight, you've got an opponent like Artem last night. It's little steps." It's little nuances. It's standing off at little angles, pushing your opponent around, taking him to areas he doesn't really want to be comfortable in, forcing him onto the back foot. And Shakur was quite happy just to stand in straight lines, walking forward, and he throws the shots, but he doesn't sit down on his shots. Like it's almost like he's just going through like a glorified sparring session when his hometown crowd, when the networks, when the fans are thinking, we want to see a bit more from you because it's very underwhelming.
I had the same thought about it being like a spar when I was watching the fight. That's a thought I had. I thought this is like this field must feel. It looks to him like it's a spar.
Yeah,
and
he's gone into it with that mentality. He's gone into it with that mentality.
I was watching it this afternoon. I had to get a coffee after 6 rounds.
Yeah,
and then I thought it did. Now, in fairness, I thought after the first 4 or 5 rounds, I thought it got a bit better. But I felt around round 10 or round 8, maybe it was round 9 after Hart Union, after he had that. There was a time later on in the fight anyway when I thought there was a chance to go through the gears. It was one of the rounds, and he just didn't didn't follow through on it, and you know,
it had to have been like the 8th or the 9th, Dom, because I'll tell you, it was the funniest thing. They said start of round 11, and I'm like, it's the 11th round. And it just like all the rounds were so very repetitive. I had not even realized that you got into the 11th. And I think by about the 8th or 9th round, he was just kind of in cruise control at that point in time because he had put enough rounds. He won the first 7 rounds. He had the fight won.
Yep. The fight was in the bag by the halfway stage, and it's.
But lads, isn't there a conversation here between Shakur's management team and his promotional team, and Shakur's trainer, and not that Shakur would have to be reminded of this, but it doesn't a conversation happen weeks in the build up to this fight? It's not necessarily whether you win this one, Shakur, because you should win it. It's how you win it.
Well, here's the thing too. I think Des, the problem for a guy like Shakur is he has won so many fights going away and not been in any real trouble, not faced any real adversity that we just don't know if he has what it takes when it comes to pulling it out of the bag, having that extra gear or anything like that. Like one of my favorite moments when it came to boxing, even though the actual judges didn't have it the way the commentators did, when Terrence Crawford before the 10th round got word that the ESPN or whoever was calling the fight had him down against Sean Porter, he went out there and he knocked him the fuck out that round. It's there's very few people who have that. I'm trying to think of a few that I think in that situation would be able to do the same thing because it's just they have whatever that is. Davis, I think,
but
has that.
It's conceivable that Stevenson may never find himself in a position where he's actually behind in a fight. I mean,
let me pivot here, Dom. Let me see this. So if he is a free agent, and maybe you were talking about can a fight make money? What we saw from William Zepeda last night, fuck me, that was incredible. Because if you remember, the only loss prior in Giovanni Cabrera's career was a split decision defeat to Isaac Cruz, who had a hell of a time finding him. And what I saw from Zepeda last night was absolutely incredible. He'd be a great dance partner for Shakur. And I'll tell you what, I think he has a higher ring IQ than people give him credit for because it was about maybe it was in the second round. It was either late first round or early second round. And all of a sudden, Zepeda started throwing his left hand right over the top of Cabrera every time he let it go. And he got Cabrera to tuck that jab away, which allowed Zepeda to be able to break the plane much more easily. And he just wrecked him in the next few minutes. Third round stoppage, great body shot. But, I mean, he was all over him. I think William Zepeda, as far as come forward fighters go, he is a special fighter. And I don't know how a Shakur fight goes with him, but if you want to see him with a dance partner who can ask those questions, I'm going with Zepeda in the division. Obviously Tank, but Zepeda, I think, asks so many of the same questions.
I'm glad you brought Zepeda up in this context, Matty, because I watched the Zepeda fight straight after watching the Shakur fight, and the first thing that struck me when I saw Zepeda was I thought he looked a lot smaller physically than Shakur. Did you have any thoughts on that? I thought Zepeda, just before I even talk about his performance, which was, I agree with what you say about it, but I just thought he looked. You look at Shakur and you think he can be comfortable at 140, whereas I thought Zepeda looked like a much smaller fighter at the weight.
I disagree. I mean, because you got to remember the Cabrera's big and he missed the weight by a couple of pounds.
Yeah,
too.
I saw that. I saw he missed the weight. But anyway, it may not be a vital consideration considering a Shakur fight. But I just think Shakur would, if that fight was made, it goes back to what we're saying. Would Shakur would he risk fighting the sort of fight that gives Zepeda more than a chance than he would have if Shakur just fought?
I don't think Zepeda gives you the choice.
No, I
don't think he gives you the choice.
That's what's interesting. I suppose that's what's interesting about it, to see whether he can force Shakur to engage more than he might have done. I suppose just briefly back on Shakur, the previous fight against the guy Edwin De La Santo, he was injured. He said he was fighting that fight with one arm. But that wasn't the case last night, and so yeah, I mean he's a free. If he is a free agent now, what's to stop him either fighting Zepeda on the zone or Tank on the PBC? But how would the deals work for these to make those? Would would he price himself out? It's hard to know.
I don't know, but Des, what do you think on that when it comes? I hate to shift to a different card real quick, but Shakur needs someone to push him to prove that he's great. Do you think Zepeda does that?
No, that fight's not going to happen yet. Zepeda's a very good fighter, and I think, look, Shakur had a brilliant year. Jamil Herring, Oscar Valdez, and how good did the Conceição result look now? So I think that's Shakur's level. He's one of the top 3 guys in this brilliant division. But I'm not quite sure if you'd put a Zepeda, who is really hot, but still not to go in with a puncher, against a Shakur, who is. I'm trying
not
to work
a puncher.
out.
He is not a puncher.
But I think he can nullify a puncher. I think he's got that in his locker.
He's done it fairly well with Valdez, but I think that from what I see, I kind of think Zepeda could be better than Valdez. And Valdez,
do you know what I think they'll put? Do you know what I think they'll go for? I think they're more likely to go for a Navarrete, or someone like that.
I think was going back down to 130. I think
this is my theory, Matty. I think they'll offer Navarrete. They'll tempt him to stay, and we've seen Navarrete get got at, especially at this weight. So I think that's the route they'll go down. I know you're hot on Zepeda, and I like him. I'm not as hot as you are, but I like him. I'm not quite sure if that's the sort of fight Shakur wants right now. Look, for me, Shakur Stevenson's stock has dropped a bit. Whether he fights a Navarrete to see how he handles a come forward puncher, or whether he goes in with a Lomachenko and they try and dissect each other, I think that's the route they're going to take Shakur Stevenson. I think Zepeda is too much of a risk and he's too hot. And I'm not sure if the people in the Zepeda business would like to go near Shakur Stevenson just yet either.
Yeah, I think that's more. I think that's the more pertinent reason why the fight might not happen. Zepeda's with Golden Boy, so I think.
But if that was Shakur's last fight with Top Rank,
yeah, but I don't think I think Golden Boy. I agree with Des, Marty. I think they would be very reluctant to risk Zepeda's progress by putting him in with Shakur.
Where else are they going to get him a title? He's got 30 fights now.
Yeah, they have to. Who could he get? It's who else? Who could he get for a title shot at 35?
And Zepeda's got to get going because he could end up hanging around and running into a prime Keyshaw Davis. So they've got to get him moving. I agree, Matty. I totally agree. But look, if you're looking at someone like a Javante or a Devon or I think Shakur Stevenson's a safer bet. But I think if they can find the title somewhere else, I think it suits both parties to go in different directions just for now.
Now, the only fights that I think the Top Rank can offer him that are reasonably interesting at 135 pounds in some way, shape, or form or meaningful, one would be Navarrete if they got him to stay around there at 135. That's actually at least a known quantity. And then you have a chance with for a unification with Dennis Baranchek.
That's a good shout because he's not Baranchek. That's a good fight. I was just going to say that because he's not a puncher, and I think Baranchek suits both of them guys.
Yeah, but here's the problem: if they're looking at trying to make Shakur's stock go up, a Baranchek fight's not going to be pleasing for anyone who's not a boxing purist.
I think that I was just going to say I think that would be stylistically that could be. That could make Shakur's fights up until now look positively entertaining.
This is where you need Andy to step in and say it sounds like pure AIDS. This is his spot right here.
I think the other thing is, Matty, I've heard it said as well that there's talk that if Ivanto Kakatsi beats who is it? Kakatsi's lined up to fight Josh Warrington. If he comes through that there was talk of Kakachi maybe fighting Baranchik, given the relationship between Top Rank and Frank Warren, that could be a fight that could easily be made. So I think Baranchik will probably stay.
Kakachi would move up to 135?
I thought is Baranchik not a super feather?
135.
I was almost sure he was a 30. He's a 35.
No, that was the reasons I thought.
Him and Navarrete fought a 135, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I thought that he was going to beat Navarrete.
Red. I thought the Baranchik Navarrete fight was at 130.
No, but there's a lot of listen, it's understandable because there's loads of movement going on around these 2 or 3 divisions. So this is why I think if you put the money down, I think Navarrete, I think he's got a cultural interest. I think he's got a stylistically, he's got an interest. And the people in the Stevenson business would look at Navarrete and think, we've seen you beat a Valdez. We know Navarrete can be got at. That could be the one for a new promoter to say, let's launch pad you now, Shakur. But I think you're quite right. You take that over a Baranchik, but I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna be quite risk averse because Shakur Stevenson fights in a very risk averse way. Like after that 3-fight deal after that 3-fight year he had of Herring, Valdez, and Connedcaicaod, we've seen Shakur fall off a cliff, and he needs to get going again. I think Navarrete would be a brilliant springboard for a new promoter.
Rob, you got to redeem your boy here. Even in victory, Shakur just can't get any love.
No, and most of the hate is coming from me these days. Like I spoke fucking a million times about how good Shakur Stevenson is. We all like he came to the ring last night with Andre Ward and Bud Crawford, and I could kind of even reference the fact that he's made of the same stuff with the two of those, and he has to start showing it. And although it's a bit of a masterclass, and your man's a tough operator and that, like, and I do believe he was trying to stop him going to the body and that. It's just they tax this fucking Shakur Stevenson by decision, like, and not looking great doing it, like, and the free agent talk, like, he might be one of these ones that's a free agent for a reason, like, especially when they come from Top Rank, like, they don't like fighters that just do enough. You know, that way, like, you had didn't Ward freeze out a contract with Top Rank as well?
No, it was Don Goosen.
That was Goosen. Yeah, no, sorry. Crawford obviously had his
died.
Crawford had his top ranked situation. Mayweather had a top ranked situation. It just didn't work out. He hasn't shown that he's shown that he's good levels, but he hasn't shown that he's going to be like a world dominator, a world star. He could probably beat everybody, but he's not going to look good doing it. And because of his style of fights, it's going to really, like, that's his hometown last night in Jersey, and there's people fucking walking out of the arena, like, and he's blaming the opponent. But
I don't think the opponent was thinking the place out that much, Rob. I mean, he wasn't.
No, I don't think so. I think he came to engage him, didn't he? Like, he hung in there as best he could. He definitely wasn't there to make up the numbers. He wanted to make a good account of it. And Stevenson, he's shifting the blame a little bit. I think, like, fucking, if you're in your hometown and people are booing you out, like, and Jersey be a fight city, like, Atlantic City's been close to it for years. Like, you would we all expected last week when we were talking about this fight that Shakur would go up the gears and get this guy out of there. Now, maybe he's supremely technically gifted, but he's not capable of finishing anyone. That's cool. But I was making that point about Andre Ward and Bud Crawford. Crawford is always a finisher. Ward wasn't a known knockout artist or a big puncher, but he used to go different ways with it. So if fellas were rough with him, he'd get rough back. He had different ways of diffusing opponents that made him more.
He knew how to rough people up, didn't he?
Yeah, now that was more entertaining. Like when Ward was in there, fucking, headbutting lads, fucking shooting to the body, clinching everyone. Fucking, it was, he'd rough and tumble where it was needed, is what I mean. And Shakur seems to kind of just, it's doesn't want to engage, where he doesn't have to, and that's cool. He's so much better than these guys. But what he's going to have to get is the memo that people don't give a fuck about this style. And in these days, especially where the sport is today, when there's so many different promotional companies, so many different fighters, so many different kind of fights on the potential legacy fights on the table, and he needs to realize that if he doesn't start fucking knocking people out, or his matchmakers, sometimes we don't know who's to blame more in these situations, the fighters or the matchmakers, but whoever's responsible for these decisions, they need to get him in with someone who he's going to blast out so he can start to look good and get his name out there, because the rest of them are just going to fucking use that as an excuse, aren't they? What's going to happen next time Shakur gets mentioned to a Tank Davis or Devin Haney or whoever? They just go, oh, he puts people asleep, I don't need to fight him. So
But you think, you know, like with him, with Teofimo Lopez being that, I still haven't seen Teo's fight from last week, but he's top rank, and you think, is there not a scope for Shakur to, you know, agitate for that fight up at 140? I mean, he looked last night to me. He looked like he could easily be comfortable at light welterweight.
It just looks like, well, I think they are. This is the thing, isn't it? He's going to be free agent now, so he's likely not going to re-sign with Top Rank. So maybe that puts that out of there. But
yeah, they're not gonna give him negotiate for that fight unless he commits to them.
Yeah, exactly, and that'll be the fight. Once he re-signs, you get another 2 fucking dud fights like last night before that fight did ever materialize anyway. So maybe Turkey can fucking get his hand in the mix and start forcing these fights down the lower divisions. I do hold out a bit of hope for that, but disappointing from Shakur Stevenson. Like, disappointing. He has to understand his fucking end of the assignment as well. It's great being good and too good, and that guys can't touch you and that, but people don't really want to see that shit. Like, don't really want to see that shit these days. They want to see fucking entertaining fights.
Like, I remember, you remember Floyd Mayweather against Miguel Cotto? Now, Floyd Floyd made that an entertaining fight. He could have just not got hit all night.
Yeah, he laid on the ropes a little bit for 4 hours, and he kind of. And Cotto put him there, I guess, in a lot of ways too. So
it was I just remember it was despite the dominance, you know, superiority of Mayweather, he still contrived to make it a very entertaining fight. But
I think that was his first fight back out of jail, wasn't it? Floyd's.
You know, he was just going. He was going into jail. He was going into jail like the day after the fight.
Yeah, that was a bit of an Escobar move, wasn't it? Like,
I thought it was.
I think what's so disappointing about what I think was so disappointing about Stevenson is this is a guy that's hugely talented. Now, this is a guy that can put his punches together. He's got everything: speed, accuracy. He's got a good defense. He's got a good offense. We just want to see him put his foot down, sit on his shots a bit more, learn to maneuver guys into corners and put them where he wants them,
and keep them there.
Keep him there. He seems reluctant to do that. Now, there's been other guys in the past that have got where Shakur is on limited ability, and we recognise it for that. But we know that what we're seeing from Shakur now is first gear boxing. It's someone that's on 65, 70% of the tank. And we want to say, especially in one of the original 7 divisions, especially in one of boxing's premier divisions, we want to see the most talented kids perform to the best of their abilities. We're not seeing it. And last night, in his hometown, in front of his at-home people, in front of a guy that was pretty much put there to make you look good, Shakur fouled under the lights to really make a statement, and we're all underwhelmed and disappointed by it, and that's what's frustrating.
His natural ability, when you actually see glimpses of it, it's breathtaking. I mean, when he puts, you get these glimpses of him putting the shots together, and the punches are so sharp, and you just think, if we saw that sustained in any manner, that, you know, he could be stopping these guys. It's not inconceivable at all that he could be stopping these guys in 7, 8 rounds, you know, really emphatically. And, you know, it's I just thought, you know, with ESPN, would they have shown the footage of those punters streaming out between the 11th and 12th rounds if that wasn't his last fight on the network? It's a pretty brutal business, like. But, you know, I just think he's too comfortable, and it's hard. Maybe it's hard, you know, when you're that good to actually to push yourself to beat guys even more dominantly than you mean. He is beating these guys dominantly, but it's not. It is the entertainment business, you know. That's the business you're in, and it rings a bit hollow to say that, you know, you haven't been promoted right. And you look at his last fights, like, the evidence is there. It's you know, he's not doing enough, really.
Yeah, it's, you know, we'll see where it goes from here. You know, we've talked about this fight about as long as that fight lasted. It was not the best watch, but I don't know. We'll see if Shakur decides to stay with Top Rank or not, and where he goes from there. I still think Zepeda is the most fun fight if Tank and Lomachenko are tied up. But anyhow, here's a question for you guys. Speaking of Hartunian, though, see if you guys can get this, and if you can't, maybe someone in the chat will. Jackie Mason played 2 characters in movies with the last name Hartunian. Do you know the movies? We'll see if somebody in the chat gets it. So anyhow, also on that card, as per the background we have going here, Foster gets conned, say Soud, in a fight where most people thought that Foster won, like almost all the rounds. The judges disagreed. One judge had it 116, 112 for Foster. Closer, I think, to what people had it. But two had it for Conceição, one at 115, 113, one at 116, 112. Conceição is now finally a title holder. And I think this is, he didn't really have much of a shout in this one in a lot of ways. But here's the interesting thing about it. If you look at it, where he might have gotten in trouble, that being Foster, is that he was just outworked. I take CompuBox with a grain of salt, particularly the landed punches. But as far as thrown, that's easier to count. Conceição threw 701 punches to 435 by Foster, meaning that Conceição threw more punches than Foster by about 20 around. And also of those, the 109 punches that Foster did land, 51 were jabs. So the power punches were a little bit more, a little bit closer to even, 58 to 49 in Foster's favor. And he only, and I'm going through these rounds, and Foster did not outthrow Conceição in a single round. The closest came was in the first, where he threw one less. But then it just started widening and widening. He got into a stretch there through 5 through 10 where he got into double digits in all but one of the rounds there. But a lot of people crying robbery, and I could definitely see that because the cards were so wide. But Des, I got to tell you, I kind of can see why this fight could go the other way. It's just one of those things where you can just where you just get outworked. And when you're talking about the difference being, and here you go in the second round, 7 landed punches to 5 landed punches. Let's see here if there any other close ones. They were all kind of reasonably close. I don't know.
No, I mean, I thought Foster won it, but I'm watching this fight unfold, and I've seen this at every single level, and you see it an awful lot in junior amateur boxing, particularly when there's not a lot on the line. And one club want to get their kid learning very good habits and good technique, and the other club just say, go out there and throw. And judges, remember, you said something to me, judges don't have CompuBox scoring in front of them. They've not got that type of tech. So what they believe is what they see. And you're looking at a guy that's aggressive, marauding, throwing a lot of shots and hitting whatever target he can. And that pretty much sums up Connedcaicaod last night. Now, Shaki Foster is a technically gifted fighter. I always think that he came into this level of boxing through the back door. He was the guy they never really fancied, and he was the guy that upset an awful lot of home kids by beating fighters on their own shows. Promoters have openly said, we've signed him, we're going to give him a push, but we didn't expect him to be here. And I said it last week, someone's going to catch Foster out, because sometimes when you're gifted and you're comfortable sitting in the pocket and you're sitting behind a shoulder, and then thank you for them punch stats, because that kind of tells a story in itself. Foster's landed more, but Connedcaicaod's thrown sometimes 80% more punches, and with the power shots, over double the amount of punches. So I can see why judges get conned. I can see why judges go for that swing when you see it one round after another. Now, I didn't think Robson won last night, but watching the fight, I'm thinking, I really hope Foster doesn't get caught out here. And I say this a lot when you get two styles like this. And Foster seems very happy sitting in the pocket, working on sublime, crafty shots that are almost like box puncher counter punches, where he's sitting in the pocket, he's not trying to avoid you, but he's working angles and slight movements to find gaps. But unless you're a big puncher and you're visibly knocking your opponent back, sometimes that gets missed. Last night it got missed. The scores were so wide. I'm disappointed for O'Shaquie Foster because I like the run he's on. He was my international fighter of the year last year. I want to see him get back in there with Robson and put it right. But he does have to adjust his style, and he does have to be a bit more proactive and a bit more assertive than what he has been. I said last week he can get caught out with his style against the wrong opponent. I didn't think it would be Robson, but it has been, and I'm not surprised. Although I did think Foster won it, mate.
Now let's play a game here, and let's just for a moment imagine that that boxing is corrupt. Just imagine with me that it might be the case. And here's some interesting facts, or an interesting fact. That was the next to last fight on Foster's contract with Top Rank. He has one more fight left with them. Now, just imagine for a second, do you think it's at all possible that maybe there was, I don't know that there was a rematch clause in there, and if there's not, that's very interesting. So say there's not. So there's no rematch clause in there. Does Bob go to O'Shaquie and say, the only way you get a rematch with Connedcaicaod is if you sign a new contract with me, or an extension? But that would only happen if boxing is crooked. What do you think, Rob?
Sorry, I'm eating a pizza there, which you'll appreciate as an Italian. I think O'Shaquie Foster probably doesn't have the most appealing commercial style, and I don't know if Aaron will be that. Like, it seems a bit dastardly, doesn't it, for a fighter of O'Shaquie Foster's draw to be trying to fucking time up into a long range contract by getting him robbed against Conte. So I think Des is right. Like, he has a style he can get caught out with. I think he's probably his own worst enemy. That he's not a fast starter as well in some fights, like where he should look a little bit sharper from the off.
Well, who do you think has a smaller audience between him and Connedcaicaod, though? Fucking.
Well, Connedcaicaod has the whole of Brazil, doesn't he? Like, so he's fucking maybe.
And he's got a brilliant story. He's got a brilliant story, Connedcaicaod. It's phenomenal what he's done. And Rob, you've been watching boxing a long time, mate. Right? How many times have we seen these? I see an awful. It reminded me of Dominic. Remind me the kid from Belfast that was boxing against Conor Walker a couple of weeks ago.
Aye, Crocker. Lewis Crocker.
Lewis Crocker. It reminds me a little bit of Lewis Crocker. He's got all the tools, Rob, and I'm going to throw the better shots and the technically more difficult shots, but I'm going to get outworked by you. And I think, I mean, look, I'm sorry to interrupt, Rob, but don't you think that O'Shaquie Foster's been guilty of this quite a few times? I'm going to sit in the pocket. I'm going to do the more difficult work. I'm going to throw the better type of shots. What I'm doing, you couldn't do, and what you're doing is pretty basic. But that can catch you out, can't it?
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think he came into a situation where he wasn't the favorite guy. He won his title on an upset, and has been kind of in the public eye because he's defending the title that he won on an upset. He would have been the forgotten man if he hadn't won that fight. Like, even though it was a fight of the year candidate, like, so he kind of won the title against the odds. Hasn't got the most. He has a nice style, like an entertaining style, but he hasn't got necessarily a good work rate. Now, like what you're saying, like, he doesn't keep guys busy with the stick or anything in the middle of the exchanges, where he could probably control the real estate, get a bit of distance. He could have looked a lot better, is what I'm trying to say. He could have looked a whole lot better, but he chooses to fight in that style, and that's cool. But like, when you're not a major draw, you're not like a kind of a promotional interest. Decisions like that, nobody kind of, it'll be fucking as what's his name, Joe Gallagher said about the John Ryder Smith decision that time. It'll be chip paper tomorrow. It'll be fucking on the newspaper tomorrow, and nobody's going to give a shit about it. I don't think the boxing world is going to be crying foul about a rematch here too much, like about O'Shaquie Foster and Connedcaicaod. Like, so depends where we go. If he doesn't sign with Top Rank, he'll probably end up with Eddie, won't he? Like, so.
I was just saying, Matty. Des was saying that he's been sort of flirting with this sort of thing. What happened last night, he's been flirting with it in previous fights, and although I haven't seen last night's fight, I do remember that the Nova fight, his previous fight, I felt watching that fight at the time that it was closer than it ought to have been. I felt he allowed Nova to be more competitive in it than he.
I thought Nova was more competitive than Connedcaicaod.
Yeah, well, as I say, I haven't seen the fight last night, but uh, I just felt he could have been. I felt he could have been more dominant over Nova if he just could have been a bit more proactive. I felt it was within his capacity to leave little doubt about what was the story of that fight. But yeah, I didn't. Was that a voluntary defense last night?
I think so, because I don't think
I think it was.
Connedcaicaod could have been ranked that high.
Just going back to Connedcaicaod, I can see why a promoter would fall in love with his story and think, do you know what, with the whole of Brazil behind him, we could maybe get something going. Go back to what Rob just said. Foster's come into this level through the back door, and he won fights he wasn't meant to win. And he's never won a fight with a promoter backing him. He's always won a fight against a promoter backing him. So, I don't think anyone's going to lose a lot of sleep over Shaggy Foster not being a world champion now. And that probably is part of my frustration, because I could see this coming. And I thought, you need to be a bit more proactive. You need to have a bit more dig, a bit more pop. And you need to, when you've got someone on the hook, keep them now. But I've seen this a lot in boxing. Sometimes technically gifted fighters that do this sublime type of work, they sometimes think that's enough. But judges can be conned by work rate and the marauding style and this aggressive nature some fighters bring.
Yeah, and it's and it's a shame that this is we're discussing instead of some of the nuances of this fight. Because I was watching it and I started thinking about interesting. From Brazil, he's not Cuban, but Conceição, one of the worst things he does is he telegraphs his right hand. But what he also does is he throws that kind of Cuban right hand where he throws it at your shoulder and then puts the little tail on it, because you're so used to fighting, because they train you a lot to throw it that way, because fighters with high guards, you can kind of sneak it around to the ear. But when you're fighting a guy who's got a good roll, sticks behind the shoulder like Foster, that's not a great punch for him. Whereas if he was throwing that straight shot right off of the shoulder with no fat on it, I think he would have had a whole lot more success.
And something else to pick up on what you just said there, Matty, I totally agree. Somewhere in that camp, somewhere last night, someone has said to Robson, you're not going to hit targets, just hit what you can. And you could see that in his style and his approach, couldn't you? Robson Conceição was hitting anything he could. He made it really ugly and uncomfortable for Shaggy Foster. And last night, now this is his fourth attempt at a world title. This is the same guy that went to 2 Olympics. He knows all about sticking around, and he wasn't going to go away last night. And that mentality of it's going to take me forever and a day to land on a shot on the target with him. So I'm going to hit what I can when I can, and it worked for him. And I go back to it, and we've all said it on this panel. Someone's going to catch a really good fighter like Shaggy Foster out because he believed in his own brilliance, and someone else believed in their hard work.
Yeah, they definitely gave it to the guy who was just who had the work rate, and he did have the work rate advantage. Unfortunately, clean punching went to Foster, did not get credited for it. But
He also, Matty, just before you move on, I just wondered, do you know how to say Conceição's first name? Because it's a bit like Janabek's second name. It's not as it appears.
Well, in Portuguese, the R has an H sound. You think about
yes,
it,
Matty, yes.
Yeah, it's like the MMA fighter Royce Gracie and his father, Renzo Gracie. It's Hobson, yeah, and it fucks with people. So
Poncher gets it right. That's what matters.
So, anyways, I'm sure there's a bunch of Portuguese fans who were offended at many moments last night. But going back down the card there.
Sorry, Matty.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, mate. I know you've got a lot going on. But we're all talking about, I thought Foster won it, and we're all talking about perhaps Foster's flaws and what he got wrong. We should remember that Robson Conceição, this is a guy that failed at 1 Olympics, hung around, went back and got a gold at the next one. This is a pro that tried 3 times to be a world champion, and has succeeded on his fourth attempt. There's a special quality about this kid as well.
You kind of feel good for him, just like
Yeah.
because he does seem like a decent dude. Like it was, if like there's going to be a robbery, at least let it go to the guy who's not an asshole. So fair play to him. but anyhow, let's see here. There's a lot of fights around 130, 135 going around on this card. Keyshawn Davis with a really sloppy win over Miguel Medueno, who can sure take a freaking shot. He took over 500 punches from Steve Claggett in a fight, and he took not nearly that many from Keyshawn Davis, but they were probably classier, they were probably cleaner, they were probably harder than what Claggett put on him. But they hugged it out at the end. Davis, there's something that is just missing from him that I don't know what it is. Him and Shakur refuse to fight each other. They're boys. So anyhow, that is not going to happen. Also on the undercard, William Foster III losing to underdog Erdison Garcia. Quite widely. He's basically been figured out. Decent footwork, keep your distance, check hooks on the way in, shit like that. Foster III does not have a lot to offer. Second loss of his career. Let's see here. Calvin Davis picking up a majority decision win over Kevin Johnson. No, not that Kevin Johnson. This fight was contested just over the 140-pound limit. And I'll tell you, the hottest prospect on that card, I think for me, is going to have to be Abdullah Mason. I don't know if you guys saw this one, but
I saw it, Mata.
He just lit up Luis Lebron, who's usually fairly sturdy. He's a decent operator. Just smacked him around, dropped him a couple of times in second. His corner waving the towel of defeat in the third. There was the towel surrender, excuse me. And I mean, Dom, Mason is an absolutely special prospect at 135 pounds, and in a world where Bob doesn't let things marinate, protect fighters, all that crap, we just have Abdullah Mason against Keyshawn Davis, and let that be an eliminator to fight a tight list.
Absolutely, Matty. I mean, this guy is I used the word breathtaking a few moments ago when describing what Shakur can look like when he, in those glimpses and fleeting moments when he puts things together. But this guy just really does take the stuff he's doing at such a short time as a pro. He's and you look at the frame on him as well. He looks like someone who could go up easily to 140 and 47. And just in the context of what we were saying about Top Rank being ruthless and not really persistent with someone like Shakur, if they feel he's not doing enough to be an exciting proposition inside the ring, maybe their attentions for a while now have been on this guy and sort of replacing Shakur with this guy as a sort of trying to turn this guy into the sort of fighter that they hope Shakur might be. And this guy doesn't look like he's going to have the same sort of reluctance to go through the gears. And I mean, this guy LeBron, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he'd ever been stopped. And yeah, Abdullah Mason went through him like a hot knife through butter. And the guy looked like at the end of the second round, I thought he was going to get stopped there, and then he somehow came out for the third. But
first stoppage lost, Dom. You are correct.
It looked at the end of that second round like he had just had all the resistance beaten out of him. He was looking over at the corner. I think he was hoping the corner would step in and stop it at the end of the second round. Apparently the commentators were saying he comes from a family. It was an interesting story. He said that they were raised in Ohio, but they moved to Yemen for a time before coming back.
There's very few places you can go leave Ohio for where you're worse off than you started, but fuck me, they figured it out.
They did Yemen and Egypt, neither of which have been the most Pacific destinations in the past decade or so. But apparently as well, that it's a family. The father's a teacher, but he had all the kids doing different martial arts when they were young. So maybe that's something to look out for in his upcoming fights. What sort of wrinkles that might give rise to in his style. But he looks to have everything, and he's it's exciting to watch. And It's gonna be exciting to watch.
If he doesn't get like nailed like by the FBI for being part of the Muslim Brotherhood, they're taking him away. He's like, no, man, I said I'm a Muslim brother from the hood.
Yeah, apparently they are. They were saying, the commentators were saying again, it's a devout Muslim family. So yeah, let's see. I mean, how many fights was that? How many fights has he had now?
13th, I think.
Yeah.
Or 11th. That was his 14th, excuse me. Which is amazing because you look at him like and where he's at in his progression, and kind of where they're putting him at. So he has more fights than Keyshawn Davis, but not quite hitting that level of opposition, I don't think yet. It's interesting.
I just hope, Matty. I hope they can get opponents for him. I hope they can get guys in the ring.
They have so many people at 135 pounds if they would start putting their prospects in with each other. Alon Garcia, who I think is at 135 pounds. Robert, what's his name? God damn it. Murataya. Murataya's there. Another fantastic prospect.
They've got the guy who ran takeover, Jermaine
Ortiz, I think if he can still make 135, he fought Tio at 140. You just had Erdison Garcia, who beat William Foster III. He's a one defeat guy. Throw him in with one of them. Like the talent is there, but it's Bob's unwillingness to put his fighters together and risk their O's. Like eventually, like you got to make it happen. It's just you're like totally holding back these guys' careers. It's ridiculous.
I wonder, is it at least as much to do with managers of fighters and advisors of fighters? My notion of Bob would be that he was generally always not the worst promoter for putting his own fighters together, but
he wasn't. But ever since Gamboa and Lopez and the Let It Marinate, that was kind of the beginning of a downward trend. It's not a stand alone, as maybe it had been at that time. Because I mean, Top Rank did put on freaking incredible cards generally until that point.
Who knows? Bob, perhaps Bob isn't even making how much decision making power does he wield anymore? We don't know. Is it Todd DeBoeuf that's really, and Moretti and those fellas that are calling the shots? Bob's maybe just a figurehead at this stage, but
he really only has it together from 10 till 4 now.
It's interesting as well. I don't know if you caught I think Mason is trained by the old man. Who has an interest.
I think his grandpa, not even his father. I think that's his grandfather he's trained by.
Well, whether he's the father or the grandfather, his name's Valiant. He's called Valiant Mason. Some name.
That is, he must be one of the ones who did it laid bricks like 20 floors up.
British commentators would have had a field day with him, wouldn't they? A valiant display.
Rob, did you catch any of it, Rob?
Yeah, I like Abdullah Mason.
He's good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's got crossover appeal as well. I can see him getting a bit of traction on Insta and stuff, and people really starting to check for him in the States and that. But that comes with the delivery of his performance. The exclamation point. He's got a brilliant fucking check hook. I saw someone fucking run into one like a lamppost. Like he's fucking seems like he has a finisher's instinct, and he's not there to kind of do overtime. You know what I mean? As Dara Foley says, he's not there to fornicate with the arachnoids. Like he's ready to get. He's ready to get guys out of there if they don't deserve to be in the ring with him, and that's refreshing for a young fighter. Like
no one can beat Iron Mike saying fornicate, Rob.
Yeah, fornicate is great, unless you wanna,
Yeah, fornicate.
But fucking I really like this guy. Really like this guy, and he seems to be really active as well. So not ducking anybody. Hopefully, it doesn't get to those stages where he's like 14-0, 15-0, and then he gets into the Who Wants Him club and you can't get the guy a fight. But I really like the trajectory he's on. Young, hungry star, making a bit of noise, getting the finish, beating a guy, like you said, making a statement, beating a guy that hadn't been stopped. So, yeah, let's see him. Let's see him. Who's a potential opponent for him, do we think, as a gatekeeper that he could really look good against?
Imagine a fight between him and Zepeda. I mean, that'd be
maybe a bit early for him, though, isn't it, against Zepeda? Maybe.
It's more the fact that I can't see Golden Boy. Golden Boy wouldn't go near it.
Yeah, maybe not. But again, great bunch of lads to make things happen.
Well, maybe the good old Sheik will say we need a 5-on-5 card with these guys too, and you never know what we might come up with on that one. I still think that Zepeda against Shakur is very interesting, and I want to see it because I really think no matter what direction it goes, it's going to be like Mayweather Castillo 1, and it's going to be hotly debated. That's just my hunch. But anyhow, moving on to a card in California. We already got into it a little bit with the aforementioned William Zepeda taking out Giovanni Cabrera, doing what the little guy Isaac Cruz was incapable of doing, not even making this a close contest. After the first round, he had it figured out, and he just went to town on this one. So, we've been discussing like where all these guys can go already. If anybody wants to say anything yet that hasn't been said about Zepeda in his performance, feel free to get in there real quick, and then we'll move on down the card. Fantastic. All right. I didn't see this one. Alex Martin losing to Pedro Campa over 10 rounds. Looks like Martin got dropped in the 10th, and there was a point deduction from both for hitting on the break in round 5. Maybe I do need to see that one. One of the cards was pretty darn close, interestingly enough. Some of these, I don't know how they got these scores, but anyhow, let's see here. This one, Des, I think you saw it, and I was watching it kind of simultaneously as the top rank card, but I was watching the 10th round very intently, especially after seeing that the broadcasters had it a very close fight with one fighter just up a point. Can't remember which one off the top of my head. And away they went, and Sandoval landed a few good shots on Acosta. They were in the corner. Acosta had him held, looked like he had himself. There was a small break, and then Sandoval threw in an uppercut, and Raul Caiz Jr. steps in there. I didn't see Acosta damaged to that extent where I would have stepped in. I've seen a lot of funky stoppages in my day, Des, but this ranks right up there with one of the worst ones. This was absolutely bizarre.
It was. Yeah, it was. And if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. Go and watch it. It's a very, very bizarre stoppage. But I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the referee. And I've watched it a few times because I don't want to throw him under the bus just yet. It was a bad stoppage for me. And if I was Acosta, I would have been absolutely fuming because I thought Acosta was going to win the fight. And if there was ever going to be an argument for a fight being bent and a referee making a call on the back of it being bent, this was it. However, just before that passage of boxing that you just spoke about, Sandoval landed a little check left hook and spun off into the corner. Costa follows him. It's at that point, I think the referee saw the left hook land and he must have seen something. And I think he's got that on his mind. Then there's a little exchange and Sandoval lands a little uppercut on the inside. I didn't think it even got through Acosta's guard because his head didn't knock back. And that's when the referee stopped it. So I can only assume that the referee stopped that because he's seen a punch or more than one punch before that passage of boxing. And he's thought, I've seen enough. But knowing the way Acosta was fighting throughout the fight, and knowing the way Acosta came into the fight, knowing the way the fight was going, and the pattern of the fight, it seemed, to say bizarre doesn't do it justice. I thought it was a really bad stoppage. I've been spending all day trying to work it out or give the referee the benefit of that or put myself in the referee's shoes. I'm still not convinced myself. It was the worst stoppage I've seen in a very long time. It's worse than the referee that stopped.
Tony Weeks and Raleigh Romero.
Yes.
Yes.
It's up there with that, if not worse, because this was I think the last 30 seconds, the last minute of the last round in a very competitive fight where both guys had it all to do. It was bizarre.
Yeah. Again, if you guys, for those of you who haven't had a chance to see on the DAZN card, Ricardo Sandoval and against Angel Acosta, that was just I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I just cannot make any sense of that one whatsoever. Did anyone else happen to see that one?
I just saw the stoppage, Matty. I haven't seen the fight itself, just the stoppage. But yes, I could only say the late Steve Smoker would be spinning in his grave. But these, I was just trying to reflect and think that, you know, these sort of things are definitely becoming more common, even in American boxing. I mean, over in UK boxing, I think it's been more common for longer. But I get the sense that it's becoming more frequent at stateside as well. Referees just getting trigger happy with the stoppages, and yeah, it's you know it's bad when the commentators, the host broadcaster, when those commentators, when even they are just moved the shock, you know it's bad. So yeah, it's grim.
Yeah, that there's a good argument that guys like Kais need to, maybe step away for a little while. Like if
And the worst thing is his old man was a referee, and he was a very good referee, Raul Kai Senior, one of the best actually. So it's strange, but yeah, it's you sort of these sort of things that the ref, it's like football matches and what we're used to over here. The refs never have to come out and give an account of a controversial decision. There doesn't seem to be any accountability. It's very rare that you see a commission will stand down a referee, like Harvey Duck's performance in the Haney Garcia fight. I know there was talk that he was supposed to ref the Fury Usyk fight, but on the back of his performance in the Haney Garcia fight, the Saudis, or whoever the commission was, I think it was actually the British Boxing Board of Control, have taken a lot to do with appointing officials for the Saudi fights. But Doc was in line to get the Fury Usyk fight, but didn't ultimately end up getting it. And the whispers are that it was due to the sort of some of the strange officiating that he delivered in the Haney Garcia fight. So, but other, in general terms, what I'm saying is there doesn't seem to be much accountability for poor refereeing performances. I mean, I think for me, Kenny Bayless, I thought he was getting big fights in Vegas for far too long. Tony Weeks, we've talked about Tony Weeks, and it's it's hard to believe that there isn't more younger, newer faces to come through and get these gigs. So I would be quite cynical. I would say a lot of the refs, especially for big Vegas fights where big stars like Canelo, like Floyd, like a lot of these referees are in some sense their honesty has been compromised. I would definitely believe that with the likes of Joe Cortez and Kenny Bayless, but yeah, hard to prove, I suppose.
Well, I mean, there's some guys that I think get a little bit too entrenched. And I also think there's some guys who've just been in there a little bit too long and they need to get out of it. But then I think there might be guys who have been in there just a bit too long and need to take a break. It's just like anything else. Like you just kind of need to get a fresh start, clear the hard drive, whatever the heck you want to say on it. But I don't know. I'll be wary about Kais next time I see him in a fight like that and we're getting into the later rounds. I will tell you that much. But let's see here. Also on that card, Manuel Flores getting back, keeping his winning ways going, getting back at it, working his way back to junior bantam or to super bantamweight, I think, and taking out Noel Aramboulet, who apparently his father was a champion from Venezuela. But that was a quick night's work for him. And then we had the card from the UK at the Copper Box with Johnny Fisher smacking around Alan Babbage for about 30 seconds, and that's all it took. I had it as part of a parlay that I won. Under 3.5 rounds.
Oh,
Under 3.5 rounds, and this fight was was just like free money. My
I'm
God.
disgusted you didn't start the show with this card, Matty.
I know.
Yeah,
as they said, or David Diamante said before the fight, the former world title challenger, Alan Babbage. There's a
Alan
notch on
Babbage,
that
by the
Fisher
way,
belt.
here's a point of interest on that. That Alan Babbage was getting the finishing touches put on him before he got the finishing touches put on him by Johnny Fisher, by a guy from Wexford, Darren Brown, who does like fitness consultancy for used to be a top fucking amateur soccer player. This guy played for Waterford and that, like really, really fucking good in the Wexford League. And he has his own fitness consultancy. He kind of trains athletes and Olympic sprinters and that. But he was doing work with Alan Babbage before the fight, and I was thinking, Babbage put a lot into this, isn't he? Like, for a fella who's going to be fucking here for 1 or 2 rounds, like, so it just goes to show you, I suppose, even at that level of the sport, there's guys like, really putting it in. Like, I'm not saying Babbage was fucking trained to be world champion, fucking whatever, like, but he had a ceiling. Obviously, he was fucking been entertaining. He was a matchroom heavyweight, like, he was a tailor-made matchroom heavyweight. The bald head, the savage Babbage.
Wasn't he working with Packy Collins, Rob, for this?
Could have been, so that probably maybe where the link came from. But like, he's these like the guy that he was working with was like, works with pretty high level athletes, like, so obviously he's training too, like, you know what I mean. It's not like he's just fucking turning up. Sometimes I think we think of these fellas as joke figures, like, where they just turn up and get blasted out. But even though he did turn up and just get blasted out, he's putting in some work into it in the background. But yeah, that's probably more. You have more to say about that than the fucking fight itself. Like, Johnny Fisher carries a crowd, by the way. I tell you what, like,
unbelievable. I couldn't get over it. Look at it. How was that a sellout?
Well, of course, and then we've joked, obviously, we cracked jokes, a million jokes on Big John, like, but that part of the marketing strategy that they have, he's a fucking ticket seller, like, and if they can match him right, get a few knockover jobs to him until he gets to a certain, like, I don't know what his ceiling is. I don't think he's bad. Like, I don't think he's particularly good. He has a little bit of whack on him. I don't think he could trouble anybody in the top fucking 10 of the heavyweight division, and that's saying a lot. Like, but match this guy well, like, and he make a right few quid for himself, and he might become a bit of a star. Like, he's kind of in his dad's shadow, no pun intended. And it's hard to take him serious, like, when he's talking in the ring or in the dressing room beforehand about what he's going to do to Babbage, when he sounds exactly like Big John. You're just visualizing Big John having a fucking trash talk at someone. But jokes aside, like, he's a ticket seller, and he's going to make a right few quid for himself if they match him the right way, like, and they get another few Alan Babbages for him. But that's got to be a big night out for the Romford Army, like, isn't it? They're all fucking down there. I'm sure there's Chinese is getting ordered left, right, and centre. Fellas fucking having a large on the drink for a Saturday night. So he's got potential to be a big British domestic star, like Johnny Fisher. So good on him, like.
If Chisora, I bet he'll put him in with the loser of Chisora and Joyce. Something like that.
Yeah, if Chisora loses, I think Joyce still be too hot for him, wouldn't he? Like,
I don't know, Rob. I'm starting to the ease with which Joyce is being tagged now. I don't think it's a shudder to say it, but I wouldn't.
That could, like, if they fucking
I mean, Usyk was asked recently who's the hardest he's ever been hit, and he said Chisora.
Interesting. I kind of see Johnny Fisher feasting on the ghost of Derek Chisora in about 5 fights time. You know,
yeah, we're basically at necrophilia.
And having a 5 days afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
I just, it is what it is. I'd love to talk more, but I think that's value of the week material that we actually have potentially coming up here. But as much as I'd love to talk about the Fisher gang now, a decent fight on there, although the scorecards just might tell you that it wasn't. Reece Bellotti was able to defend his domestic titles over Levi Giles in a fight that was 118-110 twice, 117-110 another way on another card. I just didn't think that fight was that wide by any stretch. Des, I thought that Giles in a lot of rounds gave as good as he got, and there was plenty where he gave a whole lot more than Bellotti gave to him. So I don't know. I think this one probably should have gone to Bellotti, but these cards just didn't seem right to me.
Yeah, I think we've got to look at a bit of a backstory here. Reece Bellotti's trained by Jimmy McDonald, and Jim McDonald goes back an awful long way with Barry Hearn. And I think Eddie's come out and said, when I was a kid, Jimmy McDonald was my hero. Jim's a really nice guy, and he's been around. He's boxing royalty, this part of the country.
Stop Barry McGuigan, didn't he, in his comeback?
Yeah, he did. And it was Jimmy nearly died against Amazula Nelson in the ring. Like I say, he's boxing royalty in his part of the country, and he's a really nice guy, and he's been around boxing an awful long time. Danny Williams is trainer, James DeGale's trainer, and he's been. And one thing about Jim is when he takes a fighter on, they seem to stay with him right to the end. He's one of them guys, and there's a lot to like about Jimmy Mack.
He's massive on fitness, isn't he? Supposed to be.
Yeah, and the argument, Rob, has always been that he probably overtrains fighters. If you know, it's been said a few times, because he's one of these guys that can run 5 marathons in 5 days. He's one of them. And
does he take them the fighters off to do like parachute regiment training and all?
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. He's incredibly fit, and he's a real sports person. He's a real boxing man. I repeat myself, he's got boxing royalty down here, and we all like him, we all respect him. And I think if you look at the backstory of Reece Bellotti came into the pros. I think he won a national title training with Jimmy. They've got to a level, and I think Reece fell off a cliff. I think he lost 3 and 5 or 4 and 5. Someone to tell me, but he hit a ceiling, and I think it was, this is as far as you can go. And then there was a little bit of movement in the division, and Liam Dillon, who's a non-puncher, won British and Commonwealth titles, and then we saw Matchroom bring Reece back and fight Liam Dillon at the Indigo at the O2, and it was a good fight, but it was one fight that Reece was really comfortable winning. And I think that they're going to keep Reece at this level, the Levi Giles level, where Levi's got a winning record, but he's not a puncher. But we saw, even with that last night, Reece was lucky to hear the final bell, because he fell off a cliff in the last 6 minutes. And I think they've had a conversation here, a very honest conversation. You are a British champion unless a big puncher comes along or a real big star comes along. And if there's money to be had, we'll take it. But let's try and keep you on shows. Let's keep you defending your British title and your Commonwealth title. And let's see how far we can do it. But I think there's a ceiling to Reece Bellotti. I think we've found that ceiling. And that's not to be disrespectful. He's achieved an awful lot. This is as far as he goes. I thought the cards were a bit wide. Levi, if he had another round, he might have even stopped Reece last night. But that's probably where this is as high as Reece is going to go now. And interesting, he was top of the bill last night, even though Johnny sold all the tickets and the Romford Army the Bull Army was in full attendance, and it was all about Fisher and Babbage. Top of the card last night was Bellotti and Giles. It was a decent fight. I repeat myself. This is probably Reece's ceiling, and they're probably seeing how far he can go before someone comes along and beats him.
Yeah, as you said, there's no shame in it. It's a heck of a good level that none of us could achieve in this chat. So
and that's the thing about boxing, and particularly say something like, we're all boxing people. We go from Shakur Stevenson to Keyshawn Davis to Abdullah Mason to Reece Bellotti. We're not putting anybody down. It's just a case of we've seen enough of Reece Bellotti, and we know that you've won a British title, a Commonwealth title. If there's a non-punching European champion, you can bring him over. You might even win one of them, but we kind of know where Reece Bellotti's at now. And it's a good level, but we're kind of he's on the clock now.
Yeah, they're not talking about what world title aspirations.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. And if I'm going to be honest, had he not had Jimmy Mack with him, had they not had a relationship for such a while, had Eddie not brought him from the amateurs into the pros, perhaps Liam Dillon wasn't the British and Commonwealth champion at the time. Sometimes doors can open for you and the pieces all click into place. And I think that's what's happened here.
Absolutely. It's a good place for him to be. He'll make a decent little living as long as this train lasts. So let's see. Also on that card,
Matty, sorry, mate. Can I just come back to the Johnny Fisher thing? Because
sure. Sure.
Rob touched on it really. He full stopped it for me. We've got to put context to Johnny Fisher. And last night Eddie was in the ring saying he's a world-class heavyweight prospect. You know, we've got to try and get a bit of that balance to this. Johnny Fisher beat Alan Babbage, who got stopped by Rosinski, who got stopped by Lawrence Okoli, and we know what Eddie thinks of Lawrence Okoli. And Johnny Fisher's best win for me was Harry Armstrong for a Southern Area title. I don't think Johnny Fisher beats David Adelaide, and if he does, I'd like to see it. But David Adelaide couldn't beat Fabio Wardley, so we've got to try and put Johnny Fisher on the right level for where he is right now. He's a really fun attraction. He's a big heavyweight. He sells a ticket. He's got a bit of a dig. We don't quite know what his legs are like. We don't know what his gas tank is like. We don't know what his chin is going to be like. Can he get off the floor? Can he turn a fight around? What's he going to be like in a 12-round fight when he's gaining it round 8 behind on the cards? We just don't know. But I think it's going to be a fun ride. What we do know about him is he's working hard. He's got a good trainer with him. That trainer's got good links into boxing. He's around the right people. I'd like to see Johnny Fisher kept at English level for the next year. And I'd like to see him fight proper, solid heavyweights. And the best advice I can give Johnny Fisher is you need to get rounds. You need 6 rounds, 7 rounds, 8 rounds. Because knocking people over in the first 2 or 3 rounds is not going to teach him anything. And when he does get to the Clarks or the Wardleys or the Adelaides and they ask questions of him, he won't know the answers. He has to get as much money out of his opponents as he can at this level. It's really important. I like the Johnny Fisher story. I think it's fun. I'm not interested in all the other stuff and the boshing and all the talking, and I'm not into that. But from the first bell to the last bell, I think he's probably what Billy Walker looks like in 2024. He's interesting. He sells a ticket. There's something there, and he's definitely got something. But I think he needs to get more rounds out of his opponents.
Yeah, and it's they're optimistic setting the line at 3.5 rounds. So I think Babbage would be making it 3. That was a heck of a leap for the bookmakers to make, but that was their mistake. In my pocket it goes. Also on that card, let's see here. John Hedges, Lewis Oakford go into a technical decision after a nasty headbutt causes gash on Oakford. So Hedges took
a good fight. That was, mate. That was warming up into a really, really good fight.
It was one of the judges only had it separated by a point. So
it
yeah,
was
that
warming
was
up into a really good fight.
Yeah. Yep, damn headbutt.
And Lewis Oakford really wanted to, and that's the type of thing we want for Johnny Fisher. What John Hedges had last night. We want someone that's going to fight for an area belt or an English belt and really come to win. And it's of a level that you can overcome. We I'm not saying we should throw Johnny Fisher into the deep end like John Hedges wasn't, but we want to see you against an opponent like Henry Armstrong was, someone who fancies it and can ask questions of you. Going back to John Hedges last night, that was a really good fight, and it was a shame it was stopped so early.
Yeah, maybe you never know. Maybe they'll be able to get that one going again. It's not always a common thing when there's big demand for a rematch for that kind of level domestic affair. But if there is, heck, why not make money where you can get it? Because I thought both of them, they had their moments and stuff, but they were neither one of them has a ceiling which includes world title for when you're watching it. So yeah, let them do it again, in my opinion. Let's see here. Maisie Rose Courtney losing a decision to Yasmina Zapotuchena, losing her O as well in a women's flyweight contest. And a couple of the prospects they want you to see apparently are going to be Giorgio Vicioli, a super featherweight. He looked pretty darn good. And Emmanuel Buttigieg, who also looked pretty darn good in a 6-round contest win over Yuri Hawk. I don't know, Hawk. Wasn't really paying attention to the names, but anyways, it looks like those are going to be probably a couple of prospects you'll be seeing fairly often down the road on these matchroom cards. But let's kick off here into some previews just want to hit this one up. Wednesday, I don't know where you guys will be able to watch it or I'll be able to watch it, but we're going to have a decent card from Australia on Wednesday. That might be Thursday for you. I don't know. It'll probably be Thursday for you guys. No, it'd be Wednesday afternoon, wouldn't it? Yeah, instead. I don't know. Everything gets confusing. Anyhow, Sam Goodman is going to take on, oh, God, here's Maddie's pronunciation challenge for the week. Sam Goodman's going to be taking on Thatchtana Langfon. That's a good one. Thatchtana Langfon, keeping his run going, taking on an undefeated fighter here. And also Liam Wilson, already back in the ring, taking on Youssef Dib in a lightweight contest. That one is going to be from Wednesday from Australia. Let's see here. Oh, wait. I went too fast here. Guys, I apologize. I can't believe I did this because I didn't have it pulled up because there's nothing else on the card that I pay attention to. But we had earlier today a unification at super flyweight between Kazuto Ioka and Fernando Martinez. This was a fun fight. Bizarre scorecards, especially considering Kazuto Ioka was the home fighter. But this one is definitely in your must-watch category. Great exchanges where I just thought that Martinez was able to find his moments by being just a little bit patient, kind of moving Ioka into position, then landing what was available to him, and always having something to follow it up, rarely throwing a single shot. But this was an absolutely fun fight. Martinez now a unified champion at 115. Bam Rodriguez was in attendance. Did either of you guys get a chance to see this one?
I haven't seen it, Matty. And I'm planning to, but just haven't got time to see it. But I saw the guy saying that it was great action. So I'll make sure to see it.
You damn well better. You damn well better. It was. I would probably say that this was the fight of the weekend.
Yes.
It was just exceptional. Love these guys. Martinez is a fantastic fighter. Did think he won it, but the fact that there was a 120-108 card for him makes no sense whatsoever. Some people just don't pay attention to the fights. What a bizarre weekend of judging. We're going to have plenty of nominees, I think, for the Adelaide Bird Boxing Official of the Week award this week.
Just on that, Matty, that reminds me to say, when they were reading out the scorecards in the Shakur fight, one of the scores had it 116-112 for Shakur. I don't know where they got 4 rounds for Harrod Union. I don't know where on earth they got 4 rounds for him, but
could have been worse.
Could have been worse, yeah.
So, but anyhow, just great fights if you guys get a chance to catch those ones. But let's get back to the fights here. We're going to have a Pro Box card later that day or the next day for you guys. Now I got my time zones right. Going to have Katsuma at Kitsugi. I haven't seen Katsuma at Kitsugi. I've not seen them yet against Jesus Ramirez Rubio. Let's check these guys out a little bit. I'm kind of curious about this main event. Let's see here. Akitsugi only has 1 knockout win in his undefeated record. He is Japanese, now living in Hollywood. See, he's beaten 13-0 Gregory Morales, 11-0 Rasheem Brown, 10-0 Eros Correa, all back to back there. So fairly interesting. He's been out of the ring though for 2 years and 2 months. So that's an interesting one there. Let's see his opponent, Rubio, 22-3-3. Yeah, put some money on that on the draw there. He does have 16 stoppage victories, but hey, he's been stopped in all 3 of his losses. Maybe Akitsugi can get a chance to get another stoppage victory on there. But see here, he lost on Pro Box to Ramon Cardenas in a fight where it was a majority draw at the time of the stoppage. I think I remember that one from in April. That was a good fight. Yeah, it's something. There's so many guys on there. Oh, here you go. You guys might remember Jesus Ramirez Rubio because he fought Nick Ball in November of 2022. He lost by stoppage in the first round. He was down 3 times. So, let's see here.
There's an interesting name. There's an interesting name on that card, Matty. A lot of the listeners will be familiar with Tyler Goodjohn, the area level welterweight that boxed for English titles and welterweight titles, who's pretty much relocated into America and tried bare knuckle boxing, UFC, and has now sort of circumnavigated back to where he started. So
yeah, he's
boxed on that
7
very
years
card.
out. 7 years out of the actual boxing ring. His last fight was Adam Barker in Brentwood, which he did win on points. But yeah, 7 years getting back in it.
And he's been spending a lot of time doing the bare knuckle circuit and all these types of things. So I'm not quite sure what he's got left, but we wish him well.
Well, his opponent, Jean Mindoro, is a Filipino banger. He's 11-0 with one draw, but all those victories coming by way of knockout. He had this is a fight I remember. It's been a while. Again, all these fights kind of run together. He had a draw with Takeshi Inoue last year in May.
Okay, I don't understand this, to be honest.
Interesting, very, very interesting fight there. So yeah, we'll see. These Pro Box cards, they pick up some interesting guys on here for sure. There's Najee Lopez on there against another undefeated fighter, Steven Sumner. I don't know if he's ever fought anyone of note. He has 7 knockouts to his credit, 1 draw. And his draw was against a guy who was 7-18-2. That's not the best ever, but he does have a win over 12-0-1 guy, win over an 8-0 guy. But those are fights that went to a decision there. Those are interesting. He might have a glossy record here, Mr. Sumter. We'll see. We'll see on that one.
Can you see how in boxing you really need to be looked after? So you've got poor Tyler Goodjohn who's faffing about trying to get a go at something. And then he's obviously spoke to a boxing promoter and they've said, yeah, we've got a good gig for you. We're going to stick him in with this absolute monster who's knocking out everything he touches. So poor old Tyler's got to get in with, is it Mindoro? Is he going in? Mindoro, who's won 11 out of 11, knocked them all out.
Yeah, it's a test. I mean, if you get through something like that, something that Inoue, a tight list, was only able to escape with a draw, man, you talk about being right back in the game. So they don't mess around over there at Pro Box. They'll give you a chance. That's for damn sure. But what you do with that chance, that is entirely up to you. So let's see here. Friday. The only fight on this card worth really mentioning that I can see is Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez is going to be taking on Robert Barrera in a 10-round contest. I think this is at 118 pounds for some reason. Barrera, 27-5. He's been stopped twice, 17 stoppages to his credit. He is Colombian. Sometimes that does matter. Let's see here. He's lost to Pablo Carrillo in 2022 and Muhammad. Oh, there you go. You guys might know that. He lost to Muhammad Wasim by a fairly close decision in 2021. He lost to Luis Concepcion in a fight he was ahead on in the cards by 11th round stoppage. Oh, and he has a win over Josper Perez, who I think we've seen in against some decent competition. So, an interesting kind of fight there for Chocolatito as a tick over. You never know. He could get old overnight. I would imagine he's going to be coming into this a big heaping favorite. But
didn't even know he was still fighting, Molly.
Yeah, these guys, they have a hard time deciding whether they want to keep going or hang it up. And I think when you're having that choice, you got to be really careful and make sure that you really have it when you get into the gym, because you end up kind of ruining your legacy. It's like, wouldn't it be amazing if the last thing to remember of Roy Jones was him beating John Ruiz, or maybe even taking on Evander Holyfield and picking up a W there, which I kind of feel comfortable that he would have done, given what we saw Tony did against Holyfield. But instead we have
said it a million times. If he'd retired after the Ruiz fight, or even after the first Tabor fight, nobody would be questioning he was the best of all time. The only reason that's questioned at all is because he went on too long.
Yep.
Not out by Enzo.
Roy at his best, especially. I even though he wasn't there for a shit ton of time, I think Roy at super middleweight. I think at his best, like I don't know who touches him. I just don't know. So anyhow,
Yeah, Roy Jones was like only fools and horses. They just went on too long, didn't they?
Yep. And now we have a bunch of memories of him getting knocked out. It's a rough life out there. Hopping over, there's going to be a card in Russia. Don't know how we're going to see this one, but I thought this one worth mentioning there for the Irish contingent. Albert Batsargayev is going to be getting a shot at the WBA interim world super featherweight title against John O'Carroll. So Carroll going to Russia. At least it's Russia in the summertime. He's got that going for him.
Well, wish him well.
Yeah, we wish him the absolute best on that one. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on how that one goes, but that's a fairly tall order. Batsargayev's a decent fighter. Wow. And a hush falls over the room.
It's not to me there, no.
I know it didn't matter. I was just curious if anyone had any thoughts on John O'Carroll against Albert Batsargayev.
I really liked John O'Carroll a couple of years ago when he was with a great bunch of lads, because I like this story, like because he beat Deco Garrity against the odds in the first fight. And then he's one of those guys that wasn't expected to win. He was brought in as a kind of he was supremely confident in the build up to that Garrity fight, by the way. He said he had sparred him before. And Garrity, I know I've spoken about it before on the pod and people might not get it, but he was a fucking hot prospect in Ireland, top amateur. And he was one that really people were expected to make a dent in the pro game. He had good backing. He had the fucking look. He had the style. And people were really expecting him to kick on as a pro. Obviously, these things get found out in the ring. You can't make the prediction, obviously, from fucking looking at a guy who was a top amateur. But he was highly touted, had a bit of arrogance about him, had the potential to be a draw. And O'Carroll came in and ripped up the script, beat him in a fight that wasn't televised over here. I think it was a 4-rounder in Ireland. And from there, he took that opportunity and went almost all the way. Like, he fell short against Tevin Farmer. There's levels to it. John O'Carroll would have been more basic, but he could punch a bit. He could talk a bit. I think he himself could have actually been a draw. Do you know that way? Like, if he'd have gone and beat Tevin Farmer, got a version of a world title, he could have been a bit of a star in the sport. But it's kind of, I don't know, since the MTK thing is broke up as well, a lot of these fellas haven't found new homes. I don't know what the promotional situation is with him, but he was entertainment value. Like, I don't know what he's got left now or what he looks like, but he was good. He had a ceiling. I would say he had a ceiling, but he came off the sights. He was over in Australia fucking working in construction like an intern pro, you know, that way. Like, so, and he put himself in the position to get a good few paydays and a good few profile builders, I'd say, in the UK. He was on a lot of big cards, like, so. Do like him. Go fight. I don't know who the fuck wins this fight at this stage, though. I can't make a call on it. So,
going with the long-standing Irish tradition of being neutral during global conflict.
Well, we were involved in a lot of other conflicts that we didn't have a choice about being neutral in. So, just the way
we're only nominally neutral in World War II, Matty. Only nominally. That's the truth. Actually, they're only nominal, but.
Oh Lord, yeah. Anyhow, so we got that one going on Friday. Find your VPN of choice, I guess, on that one. Now, card I don't think hardly anyone gives a crap about. We'll get to the main event in a moment. Let's go through the undercard here. Number of prospects on this one. It looks like got Raymond Murataya taking on the aforementioned Tevin Farmer. Rob still kicking around at lightweight. He's got at least one eye on a title opportunity. Ruben Villa, 22-1, taking on Suleiman Sagawa, 16-4-1. I think I've seen Sagawa in some pretty good fights. Jonathan Lopez, undefeated, taking on Leonardo Padilla, 22-5-1. Charlie Sheehy, undefeated, taking on Ricardo Quiros. I know I've seen him on the ESPN a few times. He gives it a good go. Javier Zamaron taking on Michael Braco Montes, who is 9-1-1. Never know about that one. And I think this one might be Israel Mercado, 10-1-1, taking on Dondrell Haynes, 8-1. You never know. That could be a well-matched fight as well. Any thoughts on the undercard before we move to the main event, gentlemen?
No, if I may just say this, though, Rob, So, Matty, something Rob said. Was it Declan Geraghty you was talking about, Rob? The Irish kid that had a really good amateur pedigree.
Declan Geraghty,
yeah. I mean, there was so much said about Declan. What Jono did to Declan, Maxie Hughes did to Jono, didn't he? And it kind of like it just stopped Jono kicking on at domestic level and finding a home somewhere. I felt, and that's probably. That was probably that's the irony of it. Sorry,
and then beat him in a rematch as well in the televised version. Like beat him in a more decisively the second time. Like, but
he beat him better in the second one.
Yeah, and but that actually like Declan Geraghty was like you could see flashes of it. Like I think he was beating the shit out of Archie Sharp until he got knocked out, wasn't he? Like it just fucking. If I had that right now, by the way, my memory's hazy, but. It's,
but there was so much being said about Declan Geraghty. You're quite right, and he would have come at the right time when there was so much backing in that particular part of the world for boxing. And if it had just got over them little hurdles, who knows where it'd have gone? But they're the sliding door moments we see in boxing, aren't they?
That's it. I wanted to mention actually, there's a kid from Wexford that won a European bronze junior, Caleb Walsh. He's not related to the Billy Welsh and all them. It's a different guy. I know his dad, but. Seen him a couple of weeks ago and thought, fucking hell, this guy is good. Like, and then I was talking, I know his coaches, and then I was talking to him, and they were like, we fancy him to win the gold, like in the Europeans, but lost the split decision to a Russian in the semi-final and got a bronze medal. But yeah, only 15. Like, and again, massive way to go, but a number of All Irelands and all already. It looks like a real class kid. Like, so yeah, just a shout out to him from the hometown. But yeah, hope he goes on and does something.
And you know what, Rob? I mean. The way amateur boxing's set up now and the funding behind it and the way these tournaments just keep coming thick and fast, we're kind of used to kids having 3 or 4 national titles, 4 or 5 multinational titles, so many vests. But I always judge a kid by how many Russians have you fought, how many Cubans have you fought, how many Ukrainians, how many Kazakhs. So being beat by a Russian in a final is no disgrace whatsoever. That's a gold medal in a lot of other tournaments.
You've heard of the can man. You're looking for the stand man.
Yeah, Stan can't get it.
Honestly, Rob, that keep us up to speed with that kid. We'd like to take.
Yeah, no, I saw him. I was at the missus' nephew was fighting in the Leinster finals. He's only 11 or whatever, so whatever kilos he was, and there was a couple of really good like young guys, like some of the Joyces, so would be related to like the Joe Wards and that, like some of the absolutely unbelievable. One of these kids, Southpaw, 12 years of age, just fucking sitting back like on the fucking jab, pinging that like unbelievable. But I was watching your man on the pads and I was like, who's your man? Like I was talking to my friend and he's the coach. So I'd heard his name or whatever, but he sailed through the All Irelands, like, and he's like the videos of him beating guys, like he's levels above. So again, early doors for him. He's only 15, but hope he goes ahead and see what he gets like when he gets to the seniors.
Excellent. Well, that's how much interest we had in the undercard. We ended up talking about something entirely unrelated to it. What a great undercard, Top Rank. The main event. I don't know about this main event because I don't know much.
Sorry, Matty. I had something else for the undercard, seeing as we're struggling for content.
Go for it. Yeah.
Tevin Farmer, you said, is on the undercard.
He sure is.
If he could have punched, man, he would have been fucking elite. No, how about
he had
that?
Good pocket game. He really did.
He would have been if he could have got fellas out of there. He would have been a dangerous fighter to fight because he had a fucking horrible style to look good against. If he had the pop, I think he had bad hands. Did he get shot in the hand or something? I'm not sure if that had fucking defense move shot. But yeah, if he could have punched, he would have been a much more exciting fighter.
Well, and I thought he got the raw end against that Japanese guy too. I know it got changed into a no contest because the dude popped, but I always thought I thought that he got a raw deal against him. But anyways, he spent a lot of time idle. Murataya. I personally think that Murataya is a blue chip prospect who's knocking on the door. So Farmer just might get obliterated in this one. I'll definitely be looking at the over under if there's a split on first half, second half on this fight, because I just get the hunch that Murataya blasts him. Undersized, can't punch much, older, can't move as well. I think it spells disaster for Mr. Farmer. But anyhow, main event. Janabek Ali Mahanala is putting up his IBF WBO middleweight titles against Andrei Mikhailovich Mikalovic also undefeated, 21-0. I don't know much about this gentleman. I don't know what you guys might know about him either. Let's see here. He has beat Les Sherrington in. Looks like he's done most of his work in around Australia here. Interesting. Oh, he is. He's from oh, there you go. He's from New Zealand. What do you know? So there you go. Yeah, with a name like that, I didn't have a clue. My apologies. I was thinking Eastern European. But let's see here. He's beaten the 16-0 Edison Selterin. I'm just having trouble coming up with any names here. 13-0 Alex Walters. Man, I could really use a few Aussies right now to tell me any of these people whatsoever.
No, he's he can dig. He's a respectable puncher, but he's not a banger. And I'm not quite sure. He'll know enough or have enough to beat Janibek, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's Alim Hanallah, I think, is a very, very talented fighter. I don't know what his top rank contract looks like. I will say I don't want to get ahead of things. If Crawford's looking like at a couple of quick fights and trying to make a jump so he can, argue further for that Canelo fight, I would love for him after Madrimov to maybe get a chance at Alim Hanallah and picking off those two belts. But that's just an entirely different side note right there. And this card, gosh, Dom, do you have any interest in this at all? This one is just has about as much interest as a turd festival.
No, I'll watch Janibek, but not much more than that. I mean, I'm just
Murataya, I think, just because he is such a good prospect, and it's worth following him. I mean, Top Rank does have a shit ton of talent at 135.
Yeah, okay, I'll watch Murataya. Who's he fighting?
Tevin Farmer.
Tevin Farmer. It's been a while since I've seen Farmer fight. I mean, how active was he? When was
it? It's been a while since he's seen himself fight too.
When did he actually last fight?
God, that's a good question. I actually just closed that tab. Hold on, let me see if I can get again.
No, he's been pretty active this year, Dom. He was out in March. They've obviously given him he's a 1-round blowout, and he's obviously got the Murataya fight on the back of it. But I think Murataya really gets hold of him and bullies him. And the best Tevin Farmer can do, I think, is to stay in there and make it look really ugly and stink it out a little bit and stay safe. But I think Murataya is a very dominant winner in that one.
See, but if you look at who he fought in his last two fights, though, he got 2 stoppages. Yeah, which is something else for Tevin Farmer. It's not his forte. But the fighters that he beat, 27-14-2, who had lost 4 of his last 6, and the other 2 were draws, and then a 7-8-1 fighter who had won 3 in a row. But that's because, and I've heard, that this fight could have gone either way. When he came back from his 3.5-year layoff, he fought Avery Sparrow, a capable enough fighter, but he had 2 scorecards where he only won by a point. Thankfully, he did have a knockdown in round 5. So it's the quality of competition is just not there. I think he's just going to get smacked around because Murataya, in my opinion, is aces.
Yeah, and Castillo, Tevin Farmer fought in March. He's just been suspended by the New Jersey Athletic Control Board because I think looking at his record, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think he's been stopped 8 in his last 11. So I mean, that tells you a bit about him. So I think it was a case of let's bring Farmer back with a win and let's get Farmer's name on Muay record.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Murataya can ride off into the sunset,
Correct.
wondering what could have been if he had ever fought Mickey Bay.
I actually think this is the play behind Chocolatito. I think they're gonna if he can get a win. Is that fight in Nicaragua with Chocolatito?
Yeah, it's back at home.
If you can get Chocolatito a win, someone's going to get an absolute legend on their resume.
Yeah, and you wonder if Bam would want to fight him. It
could be a brilliant name for Bam. Yeah,
it could be. But I'm excited that he was at the Ioka Martinez unification fight, looking at the winner of that, because I think Ioka was at the tail end of it, would have been a decent opponent, but Martinez, as a prime younger fighter with some good wins under his belt, who now has 2 title belts at the weight. So I'm glad that it's kind of working out that direction, and that's what Bam is eyeing down the road right now. So we'll see what happens, but for right now, it seems like that might be the way it goes, but we shall see. Now, moving on over to a card that DAZN is going to be having from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I'm going to be visiting in November. We're not going to get into the main event quite yet. Let's work our way up the undercard. Khalil Ko 8-0, taking on Manuel Gallegos 22-1. Sky Nicholson putting up that title she just won against Diana Vargas, who is 19-1. Jalil Major Hackett, who is one of Steve's top prospects. We'll see how that goes for him, taking on Peter Dobson, who is 16-1. I think we remember, where did we see Dobson from? I think he went the distance with somebody when nobody thought he would because they hadn't heard of him. Let's see here. Connor Benn. Yeah, he went 12 rounds with Connor Benn earlier this year. That's where we remember Peter Dobson from. So yeah, he's going to be taking on Jalil Hackett. Henry LeBron, the superior LeBron, who has a win over Luis LeBron, is going to be taking on Christopher Diaz-Velez at 130 pounds. Any interest in what's going on this undercard there, Mr. Kelly?
Oh. Hold on. Sorry, was that one for me, Matty?
Yeah.
Sorry, my little ones tell me what was going on in Love Island, so I can't. You didn't. I think it's very important.
Well, hold on. Let me shift it over to Des because I think he had that. That was a lot of fights I just named there. So, Des, what did you think of that undercard?
Not much. This is all about the main event, but I'm going to try and dissect the undercard. We know Peter Dobson. We know Sky Nicholson.
Few tricks.
It is, but he's against a prospect, and the prospect has been brought in to get beat. I would have thought.
Well, and if Hackett's able to take him out, not even early at any point during the fight, that's going to look really good on him.
I agree, and I think it's all about Hackett looking good against Peter Dobson. And then you can make comparisons, can't you? But I think Hackett 8-0, 7 inside. He's a puncher. Sky Nicholson's getting out. She'll be defending the WBC title, I would have thought, won't she? And that's as much as I know about Sky Nicholson. She's a WBC champion.
Well, that's more than most people probably know about Sky Nicholson, so you're ahead of the game. Her opponent only has 1 loss on her record. And I'll tell you what, she has 12 stoppage victories on her ledger, which is a lot for a female fighter, regardless of levels. Her only defeat was against a 3-0 fighter, but that could have been a hot prospect. Let's see if she's done. She's now 6-0. So, that's actually a fairly interesting fight, actually, for Nicholson, believe it or not.
And of course, we'll see a little bit more about Henry LeBron now, and he's fighting against someone, Diaz-Velez, who he should beat, but he's got to turn up. You can't just expect to beat him. So, but again, this card is pretty much this is Jaron Ennis. Is it first time getting out for DAZN? I'm not gonna get into it just yet, but this is about Jaron Ennis, first time out for DAZN. It's bringing in Avanesian, who's an incredibly respected European level fighter. So I think this card's been pretty much built on the main event.
Yeah, it is. Dom, I'd love to give you a chance to, if you think anything on if you'd like anything on this undercard, feel free to take it up.
No, I've no real interest on the undercard really. I mean, Sky Nicholson, I don't think I've ever seen her fight. To be honest,
you've seen photos of her from her journeys around the world, but never.
Yeah, I've seen her globetrotting, taking in all the salubrious destinations, but I've never actually. I'm not actually averse to seeing her fight if she was in a good fight, and not respecting a bit like Steve. If it's a good fight, if it's a good women's fight, I'll watch it. But I'm not interested in seeing,
this will be evening time, US. You'll probably be asleep. I'll let you know if it was worth watching. I'll give you a heads up on that one if it was. You won't have to suffer through it and wonder if you should have at the beginning. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I've got your back, Tom.
Yeah. Anything else? Who else is on the Pete Dobson? Is that about the head of the undercard, Pistol Pete?
No, he's fighting Jalil Major Hackett, who's definitely the A side in that one. He's, Steve is big behind Hackett. We don't know if that's
He's fighting Dobson.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at what? At welter or light middle?
At welter.
Right. Yeah.
It's a good test for a guy in his 9th pro fight, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's. I'll have a look because I haven't seen Hackett fight. So if Steve's high on him, I'll give out a watch. Definitely.
It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because we have to assume that Matchroom are still pushing the Conor Benn thing, and they're still beating the drum that he's a world class fighter, and he deserves to be fighting the Errol Spencers and the Bootses and the Ryan Garcias. But we've seen Conor against Peter Dobson. Now, if Hackett goes and does an absolute puts on a complete masterclass against Dobson and puts him out of there inside 3 or 4, which he can do, what does that say about Conor Benn? And how does Matchroom deflect that? Because Matchroom have put this fight together.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I would say I'm pretty sure Ben fought Dobson. It was wasn't it like 154?
Yeah, it was at a matinee in Vegas.
Well, I mean, I've always maintained that Ben's too small for welter even. So
I have, yeah.
And not only that, but if we're asking what does it say if this fella this prospect if he can put Dobson away in a style that Ben didn't manage, what does it say about Ben? It might also say that there's the statement of the obvious, but if he's not having the benefit of of what he was having earlier, the supplement whatever he was on, maybe it says that it's just he was having that benefit.
That's why I'm surprised I made that match on this card, because Hackett's hot.
Yeah, well, I know what you're saying.
He could turn Dobson over, couldn't he? Really turn him over.
I understand now. As you're saying, it makes it easier for people to draw that conclusion that Ben.
Well, and the conclusion that how do you? I mean, there's loads of hyperbole about fighters, and it's promoters' job to push. But how can a promoter tell us that this guy's world class, top class, belongs in the top 3 in the division, and call out names like Boots and Crawford and Garcia, when there's a kid who's had 8 fights that's just done a much better job on an opponent that he's had? So there's an awful lot of whispers that could be gathered around this sort of matching. I'm surprised that Matchroom have done it, to be honest.
I think what you're saying about Ben, when they were calling out the Bootses, the Crawfords, the Spencers, I think that was all dropping those names was just it was all during the time when the whole saga about the ban was unfolding, and the back and forth with the board and whatever authorities it was, and it was just a pure tactic to keep Ben's name current, just attaching his name to these guys. So I mean, there was never any realistic prospect that any of those fights were going to happen. I mean, look, we know, like Ben himself, they didn't even touch Alvanesian. I mean, if you're not touching Alvanesian, you're not gonna touch these guys. I mean, it's they wouldn't. Why would the likes of Spence or Boots or these guys probably haven't even heard of Ben, really? We're in this bubble, because in the UK we know about Ben. He's always being discussed and talk sport, but over in America, do these guys really know about him? I wouldn't be surprised if Ennis doesn't know about him, to be honest. Take someone like Stanionis. Does Stanionis know who Conor Benn is? I doubt it.
Well, I've got a question for Rob and Matty and yourself and the guys in the chat. If it could be made, would you put Ben in with Adrian Broner out in America?
yeah, easily.
If it could be made, yes. So, and it probably could be made because Broner's at the stage now. I think that's there's mileage in that because it's realistic. That's the thing.
It's doable, isn't it? Yeah, it's doable. Yeah.
Broner's at the stage where he's just he's cheap now. He's not hard to get, and
here's
Ben's he's in a quandary. I mean, he can't be picky now. I mean, but maybe he can't if he's going to be banned. You know, he's what they're the talk at the moment is that the negotiation going on between Ben's team and the British board is what type of ban he's going to get, and is it going to be publicised? Is it going to be backdated? This is what we're led to believe is happening at the minute. So,
well, here's what's wrong with Ben. When you just look at the whole thing in this conversation, you're asking, hey, should we put him in with the loser of a fight? Not the winner of that fight. The loser of a fight, the aged former champion. You're not talking about the guy who has momentum, the young guy who can punch a bit. No, you're talking about the old dude with no fucking activity. I don't know. I think that says the whole thing.
Matt, I'm looking at I'm looking at BoxRec's welterweight ranking. 1 Terence Crawford, 2 Boots, 3 Spence, 4 Garcia. Who's number 5? Who's the number 5 welterweight in the world according to BoxRec? Conor Ben. Conor Ben.
Fuck
yeah.
them.
It's Conor Ben, and I'm thinking, have I been transported into a different time? We live in crazy times, and like Conor Ben's best win is, I don't know, who is it?
Algieri
down at, so, and that puts him in the top 5 in one of the premier divisions in boxing. So it's the point I'm trying to make.
And 2 of those guys you named are not going to fight at 147 anymore. So that means he's number 3.
Yeah, let's get off this one.
Yeah, what a terrible, terrible fucking rabbit hole that led us down to. Only fright at the end of that one. But yeah, David Avanation is going to be the opponent for Boots Ennis. Avanation has not fought, or he's only fought once since that loss to Terence Crawford. When did he fight? Get in the ring here. Let's see.
December last year, wasn't it? December last year.
Yeah, against an 11-55-3 fighter. So that must give him a whole heap and load of confidence, but at least he was able to get the stoppage in that contest. On the other hand, Ennis hasn't fought for a year and 5 days by the time this fight's going to roll around. This is, Rob, they thought that Ennis against Crawford should have happened. Everybody felt it should have gone that way, but he's fought a few decent names. He's got a great knockout record, but this is obviously being set up as a compare and contrast against Crawford, even if Crawford's left, so that there's something to kind of pull from his legacy to build Boots up in a way. But this fight, good short notice opponent, I guess. It was supposed to be Cody Crowley. He's got all sorts of problems, like apparently with his eyes and stuff. But I don't know. Do you think that Ennis is going to get Avanation out of there earlier than Crawford did, or later, Rob? I think that's the question.
I think Boots could probably take Avanesian out whatever he feels like it, and that's no disrespect to Avanesian. I think he was a solid operator. It was a big disappointment for me and the rest of the boxing fraternity when Mr. Dungus and BLK Prime conjured themselves out of thin air and then did a deal with Bud Crawford for a one-off deal to have him fight Avanesian when we were all clamouring for the Spence fight. So there was a bit of a diversion there before that fight got made, and Bud handled him as he was supposed to. Avanesian's a good operator. Like we saw that against Josh Kelly. He's a tough guy. He come forward. He throws punches. But because of his style, I think he's tailor-made for Boots Ennis. And I really feel like Ennis will ping him from all kinds of angles. He's got too much power. He's got too much movement. And I think he's going to make him look ordinary. He'll probably cut him to bits and stop him around 9 or 10, I'd say. But
too much size as well.
Yeah, Boots could go to 54, no problem. Float up there, no problem. But Boots has to, again, he's a guy now. He's been given a world title rather than winning in the ring. Everybody knows his talent level. He has to go and show it. Avanesian is a guy I think he could show it against, no problem.
Yeah, he's kind of there for the taking, I think, especially 2 years removed from that Crawford victory. It just comes down to levels at the end of the day, Des, and I would describe Avanation as European plus.
Yeah, I think Avanesian is one of them guys. He falls in between the lines. He's world class, depending who's in the top 3 or 4 of the division. And when you've got guys like Crawford, Spence, Crawford, Spence, Boots, no, Avanesian, I'm afraid, is not in that level. I'm afraid. He's one of them guys that's a really solid operator, works incredibly hard, really honest. That we've kind of in this country adopted because he's found a home here and he's very relatable with a training team he's got and the way he conducts himself. But unfortunately, he's like the chairman of that Who Needs Him club, as Mickey Duff used to say, and he's probably the most avoided fighter in British boxing of the last 5 years. And as a result, he's been forced to go abroad and take fights he just can't win against the elite guys in the division. So, I mean, I can't really top what Rob said there. I think Boots is too big. He's got too much variation, too many angles. I think there'll be times in that fight when it's like a bit of a heavy bag session for Boots. I think he'll let his hands go. I think he'll look good. And I think he's got one eye on dominating 147 now, and I think this will be a showcase for him. I hate saying that because Anisium's been absolutely an honest pro and an enjoyable guy to watch. But I think the last fight you spoke about, I don't even think it was even televised. I think it was just a case of getting him out. He probably never got paid for that. It's just a case of pay for your opponent, let's get you out. And they're looking for fights like this to earn a few quid. I can't see him winning it, unfortunately. So I think he'll be pinged and cut to bits, and I think he'll be stopped any time between 8 and 11.
All right, guys are going a little bit later than I might be thinking. Dom,
he's very tough and very durable, and I mean he went 6 or 7 with Bud, didn't he? He's
5 or 6.
Yeah, he's no.
You were up that
money,
weren't you?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, Bud fucking.
That was a cracking knockout, by the way.
Unbelievable.
Cracking knockout.
Left uppercut, right hook, teed his head up with a left hook. I mean, and I'm agree with it. Like I loved Avanesian. Like I didn't like seeing Avanesian take it out. Like I mean, Crawford, absolutely ruthless, just no mercy whatsoever. And that was the interesting fight because the controversy over Crawford's gloves would sort of just mysteriously melted away and. Nothing became of it. Do you remember the Crawford?
They were just splitting. Yeah, it was weird.
Fuck all that. Don't think a fella that's fucking that level of a fighter is fucking tampering with his gloves to fucking
No,
I didn't.
I know. I didn't mean it, Robin.
No, I know you didn't mean it, but I'm just saying, like, thank God that kind of shit went away because that's the kind of stuff that fucking lingers on in the ether for too long these days in the fucking social media era. Like, we had basically, like, fucking a lot of people believe that fucking egg weight story about Tyson Fury to sneak in front of the commission and put egg weights inside their gloves and tamper. Glovegate kind of gave birth to that, didn't it? Like,
the over the Wilder fights.
Yeah, exactly. Like when people fucking say that they came up with that internet conspiracy that Fury was tampering with his gloves, and then like Wilder start running with it himself, like, and then added in an egg weight to it as well. Like, fuck me, man.
And Matty, it's worth mentioning as well. Time is everything in boxing, and Avanesian got the Bud that just stopped Crawford, Porter, and was 7 months away, primed up for the biggest fight of his career in Errol Spence, and he obliterated Spence. So I think Avanesian that can go, was it 6 or 7 or 5 rounds with Bud? The Avanesian that can do that type of distance with that type of ruthless, dominant pound for pound fighter, I think he could probably get 8 or 9 out of Boots.
I think Carl Greaves did a great job resuscitating Avanesian's career, and he went on that great run going over, going on the road, going to Lejaraga's backyard twice.
Fucking him up twice, yeah. He knocked him out like the 9th round. That was when Lejaraga was a hot prospect. Then they had the rematch, and I think he just dunked his ass in a round, or maybe it was the reverse of that.
Yeah, and
labour of love though, Dom, isn't it? It's a labour of love for Carl Greaves. Like, you've got this kid that goes, you know what? If you was from Manchester or Liverpool or London, you would be so hot over here. But you're a Russian kid that don't speak the language, and I know how good you are, and I'd keep knocking on doors and no one's answering. It's a labour of love for Carl Greaves, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was an act of altruism, really. I mean, he really he took him under his wing and sort of, as you say, adopted him, and they've been trying monthly to get him opportunities, but it's just an uphill battle. I mean,
over the years, Dom, we've had Ali Nambibi, and we've had Osar Lusigan, and Oval McKenzie.
Yeah,
and trainers can see how good they are. You can see how good they are in the gym. You know what you're doing to your sparring partners, but I just can't get you an opportunity because no one wants to have you.
Yeah, it's a real shame. It's just the inactivity as well. Someone like him to be to have any sort of chance in this fight, you need to be have momentum. But that was just killed stone dead by the Crawford fight, and they sort of had to take the Crawford fight because there was nothing else. And
it was the biggest his payday of his career by a stretch too.
Yeah, and I'm just more saying, if he was, it was the hardest. Yeah, it was the toughest. I think the Spence fight. If he had got an opportunity against Spence, I'm not saying he would have won that by any means, but it may have been. No one would know about how Spence had been in the years leading up to the Crawford fight. It may have been a more realistic opportunity to do something in that fight, but Crawford was just he's just ruthless, and it's just I would have loved to see Avanesian win the world title. Like, he's such an honest fighter, and it was a great night the night he beat Josh Kelly. But it's after that, of course, his chances of getting the Ben fight were it was never going to happen that he got the Ben fight after that. So
can you see how it works though, Dom? They brought him in to get beat by Josh Kelly. That was all about Josh Kelly looking amazing. And then when he turned Josh over, no one answered the phone no more.
Yeah, well, it was an interesting one. I think that fight, the Kelly fight, was actually wasn't it postponed? It was supposed to happen, and then it got it was deferred from the original date, and there was all sorts of stuff going on in the background with Adam Booth. I think the Kelly may not have been as confident as they like to tell the public they were about that fight. But yeah, what was I going to say? What I would say is I would actually agree with Matty. I think this could be earlier than I'd say. Would probably might go around the same distance as the Crawford fight, 5 or 6 rounds, and I think as well Ennis after his last fight, which went the distance, he'll have even more of an incentive to make a statement. I think the size will actually be pretty telling here as well, which is not to say that Ennis won't show himself to be superior in all the other dimensions like skill, power, but speed. But I think his size will be telling as well.
Yeah, I think the Avanesian's only way to make this fight go a pretty good distance is going to be if he kind of goes the Karn Shirkesian route and just backfoots it, lots of negative. And
I don't think he'll do that, though, will he?
He won't. Rob's right, Matty. He's not. That's not. Look at the way he fought Crawford. He went out on a shield, and that's what I love about him. But at the same time, I hope Carl Greaves doesn't let him take anything that he shouldn't be taking in there. I don't want to see him left in there to take punches and beating that he shouldn't be taking.
I'll tell you what, by the way, Ozzie Smith always fucking said Avanesian would beat Josh Kelly from the time that fight was being made for the first time. He always said Avanesian had his number, like.
And he knew he was ear to the ground with Carl Greaves, and that sort of, he was always very high on Carl Greaves.
We miss Oz because he was good for the old bets as well. Like, you get a good parlay out of him, Matty. He was good on the British scene, like for picking upsets and that. Like,
he did. He was really sharp on some of those underdogs that came through on the domestic fights.
Matter of fact, you were talking about Reece Bellotti tonight. I can only hear that name in Ozzie Smith's voice.
I think isn't Carl Greaves the matchmaker now for Sky? He's a matchmaker. He's doing matchmaking for one of the broadcasters, I think.
No clue. No clue. But anyways, we do have to move on. That's your action for the week. We do have to move on to we're gonna do we'll do the Adelaide Bird official of the week to kick this off. I need to get a graphic for this one, but a couple of nominees. What the hell? And then Rob leaves. Son of a bitch. Yeah. Hopefully he comes back for the Bellew of the week, Rob. Let's see here. I'm gonna have to put up Anthony Lundy and Paul Wallace with respective cards of 116, 112, and 115, 113 for Hobson Conceição over Oshaki Foster. Definitely has to get a shout as a potential winner of that one. Also, let's see the Kazuto Ioka fight. Let's check that one out as well. Who was the judge? I got to find out the judge who had that one, 120, 108 for Martinez. Let's see here. Yeah, or Edward Hernandez, who had it 120, 108 for Fernando Martinez. I'm not saying Martinez didn't win. I thought he did, and clearly, but 120, 108. My word, man. My word. And then also Raul Caiz Jr. for stopping the Sandoval Acosta fight, when I don't know that anybody this side of a drunken Tony Weeks might have stopped it. Who would you vote for this week, Des?
I'm going to go for the Foster Conceição judge.
Foster Conceição judges. Dominic, who would you vote for?
Raul Caiz Jr.
Raul Caiz Jr. That's where I'm going too. Rob, you can either make it a draw or you can take it an entirely different direction.
I want to draw because I know you had a parlay on it and you were setting the section.
All right. Well, we're going to be sharing the judges in Conceição versus Foster, and also Raul Caiz Jr. and his incredible stoppage that made no sense in the final round of Sandoval Acosta. You were the fantastic boxing officials of this week, and you are Adelaide Bird approved. Now, let's get it going into the Bellew of the week. What are we going to kick it off with this time? Sometimes I don't even know what these are. They're just a big surprise. Let's go with Katie.
We were all nervous. We were all praying today. But what was it like moments before this Olympic final for you? Were you really nervous?
I just want to thank Natasha for a great fight. It's a great opportunity, and Freddie, just blessed to have a great.
Oh, it will never die. What a wonderful one. Let's see here.
We'll never forget.
Let's get it kicked off. Let's do the images before we do the videos here. Let's see here. Amir Khan's daughter. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Amir Khan sends his $120,000 Range Rover to a valet, but forgets he has left his daughter, Elena, 6, in the back seat. Well done, Amir. Well done. I do believe.
Dan, Amir don't even smoke weed, so he has no excuse. Well, he has one excuse. That's glaringly obvious, probably. But that one actually takes me back to Celtic player Charlie Mulgrew, former Celtic player Charlie Mulgrew, left his daughter in the car when he went in to pay for petrol, and like fucking someone took a picture of him or whatever, like, and everyone was like, "Oh, paparazzi!" And I think he faced a charge over it or some kind of fucking fine. But I remember someone saying on Twitter when the player of the year was wrong, can someone just give Charlie Mulgrew Father of the Year? We wrap this shit up. So Amir Khan leaving his daughter in with the valet kind of tops that a little bit. Like, it's a bit Home Alone, like, isn't it fucking Kevin McAllister? Like, we forgot we left the baby in with the valet, like.
Oh, how long have I been on mute? I swear to God.
About 2 minutes, Matty.
My God.
Like a good 1 minute and 30 seconds. I was just typing in the chat. I can't get any
Thanks.
sound. What the fuck is going on? I was leaving the
Wish you would
fucking
have
thing,
said
coming back.
something. My God, talk about not one of our finest moments, not one of DAZN's finest moments. Jake Paul, apparently an American icon, right up there
We
with
missed the fucking Nate Diaz one as well. You might go back to that one because we didn't get that at all.
my God, with with Jake Paul right there alongside Olympians. Good call, DAZN. Fantastic work there. It takes very, very little to be an American icon today. And we have a pay-per-view for Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. What a fantastic event that might have been. You wonder how many views that might have got. $24.95 was the cost. But Danny Jacobs, Shane Mosley Jr. was on that one, picked up the parlay with that one. So take that one, DraftKings, you sons of bitches. I got one back.
Who won that fight, Matty?
Which one?
The Masvidal Diaz one.
Diaz, majority decision.
Fuck's sake. I saw someone on Twitter saying Shane Mosley Jr. Getting cheered out of the arena is better than Shakur Stevenson getting booed out of the arena.
Yeah. Ryan Garcia was there and he was escorted out by security, but I don't think his antics are Bellew of the Week worthy anymore. He's crossing some lines, so I'm going to leave that lad alone and let him deal with his demons in Twitter space, I guess. Got one titled OnlyFans. Let's see here. The OnlyFans moment of the night. Bam takes on Estrada and puts him to sleep after 7 rounds. Let's see here. Well, the OnlyFans moment of the night. This is where we've gone. Pornography gives you the moment of the night. But you got to think, Bam Estrada had some good moments, but do you think like on a card like Stevens, if it was like Stevenson and Hartunian or Foster Conceição, do you think the moment of the night actually probably wasn't on boxing? It was probably actually on OnlyFans?
100%. Malik Scott's OnlyFans.
Yeah. Moment of the night, money shot of the night, whatever you want to call
it. Ebony Bridges was doing a discount on her OnlyFans. She's like, yeah, get it all for $3.99, mate. And all the white knights in the comments were like, you don't need to do this, Ebony. You're better than this. And I was like, God, I know that's you, man.
He is easy to spot, isn't he? Even in the wild. Let's see here. Oh, looks like Del Boy is now security for Nigel Farage, so he's got that going for him. Going to keep, I don't know, I guess all the angry foreigners or something away from Farage. But
he's just been elected, Matty.
Did he get in?
Derek Chisora?
I'll be next.
How many people from his party got seats?
5. But they got it was out of proportion to the percentage of the vote. So the way the system works, they got 4 million votes, but only 5 seats. So you don't get the seats. The way the electoral system works, the number of seats and the percentage of the vote is not proportionate. It's not in sync. So but yeah, it was Farage's eighth attempt at getting a seat. So
but he was seated. He was seated with the EU Council, wasn't he? Or the
but that's a different the European body. Parliament. Yeah, an MEP.
Yeah.
But this is his 8th attempt at getting in the national parliament. But Chisora. It's interesting that Chisora must think it's like some sort of marketing ploy. Like he does seem to have been attaching himself to old Nigel at various stages. I think he's appealing to a certain. He's smarter than he looks, Chisora. He must have detected that there's some sort of marketability about attaching himself to Farage, but
I think he's planning for a career out of boxing, and I shudder to think that Chisora will have his say in things economic and political in your country. But I also look at our Congress and I say, fuck, why can't they have that shit too? So best of luck to you, I would say. And let's see here. One from the Nutters group following the Johnny Fisher fight yesterday. We were discussing what next for Isher. Well, I said Dave Allen later on that night in a video chat. Well, yeah, Johnny Fisher and Dave Allen discussing fighting each other. Eddie, be less predictable. Swear to God. I am not clairvoyant. I just understand how your bullshit works. Let's see here. Now we have a little mix of again. This should have been a better
to
one.
give that a bit of context, by the way, and I'll let Johnny Fisher cook because I want to see him fucking. I like guys that can sell tickets. You know that way. Like I know I cracked about Buglioni and all previously, but fellas have a cold following and all. It's hard to sell tickets for anything. You know that way. So if you can put asses in seats and you're a commodity,
you've earned your money.
Yeah, exactly. You deserve your own success. You know that way. Like, but to put that in perspective, I think it was like pre-pandemic when Oz went on his rant about Dave Allen being fucking finished and not taking it seriously. So, what the fuck is this version of Dave Allen going to give to Johnny Fisher after we just seen him fucking blow Babbage away in 30 seconds? Who's been taking the shit seriously? Dave Allen is fucking. Where is he now? What's he been doing for the last fucking 4 years? Like, fuck's sake, what would that look like? Crime scene.
Well,
I'll get Ozzy back on the pod, Rob. The vent is spleen on that.
What's next for Dave Allen is always a great question. We ask it far too much. Let's see here. Let's go with this one. Probably should have done this one after a little chat there, but we'll play this: the intersection of boxing and politics.
The elections have just come in, and we've just seen that Starmer has now won. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in the same instance, Daniel Dubois is the Rishi Sunak of boxing. Right?
I've got to hear this.
Right? I'm going to tell you he's the Rishi Sunak of boxing because he didn't win an election to become Prime Minister of our country. And Daniel Dubois, similarly, did not win the world title in the ring. You know what I mean? He got given a crown.
I don't. Is Spetsfear correct? Is that parallel accurate?
Gives a shit. What the fuck? That's it. It's I can kind of get the like. I don't pay too much attention to British politics, honestly, or Irish politics normally, or anything apart from fucking a few chosen subjects normally. But Spencer, I'm surprised seeing him cracking back up because nobody's been really paying that much attention to what he's been saying for a long time, have they? Like it's fucking.
Well, here there's actually
to Bolivian.
It's a pity Des has jumped off because he was telling me earlier there's actually a bit of a story to this, Rob, because if you remember after Usyk beat Dubois, Spencer was telling the world and his wife that it was a legitimate body shot and that Dubois should have been heavyweight champion of the world, and apparently he was instrumental in teeing up Dubois with Don Charles and, you know, the move from Dubois away from the McGuigans to Don, and but all of a sudden in this past number of months he's going out of his way and all of his interviews to be negative about Dubois and saying things like, you know, he didn't deserve this title and AJL beat him and all the rest of it. And I think what's happened is he's fallen out with the camp. I think Dubois' old man has cut him loose probably, and he's thrown his toys out of the pram. So that seems to be what's happening. So it's there's a bit of I think there's some sort of internecine feuding going on in the background, but he's throwing his toys out of the pram.
Well, everybody, I guess, is allowed to have their opinion. Not referring to you in a negative way, to the opinion of Mr. Fearon, Dom. I almost nominate myself because apparently you can't do put your sideway phone videos in. They always go straight up and down. It's stupid, but that doesn't mean I didn't get a video. Now,
straight up and down, no special effects.
No special effects. Now, in the discussion there on DAZN, they tracked down Oscar and they're asking him about Ryan Garcia and if he needs rehab, this, that, and the other. And this is what Oscar had to say based on his own experiences.
The way it really was. And I found out that rehab wasn't for me. I don't have a problem.
That's how I feel.
Oscar Winehouse.
It's not for me. Do you know what I mean? I know, fucking get together, have your little huddle up. You know what I mean? I'll deal with shit my own way. I like Oscar for that. Come on, Oscar.
Yeah, I thought that was a quality moment right there. Tom, do you have anything else to kick in there? I don't know
Uh,
if I missed anything from the group after Jay sent me that the files.
the one thing I sent it in to you earlier this evening, Matty. It was I don't know if you saw the picture of Shakur and Hart Union side by side at the beginning of fight week and the suit that Hart Union was wearing, and pinstripe
Oh,
suit.
God damn it! I'll save it for next week. I'll throw it in next week.
I don't know if Rob's seen it, but he looked less like Shakur's opponent than his would be promoter or manager. But and then there was a great. I haven't got it uploaded, but there was when the decision was announced last night. The scores were being read out. Hart Union started clapping and smiling, and he looked pretty satisfied with his night's work. So yeah, I just caught the snap when the big smile broke out of his face as they announced the scores. So yeah, he didn't look too disappointed to be with his night's work. So and then
Probably got the best paycheck anyone named Hartunian from Georgia's ever gotten in their life.
Yeah, then as well as I mentioned it earlier, a bit of shithousery from ESPN showing the fans walking out the steps of the arena.
It's almost like they want to record like, Bob, this is why we're getting out of the boxing business after this contract.
It's a bit like Sky, when AJ went into the rant after the Usyk fight, and if AJ wasn't, at that stage he was no longer contracted to Sky, he was at his own fighter, but you can imagine Sky would have done something. They would have muted the sound or something, or they would have done something to not make it look and sound so bad for Joshua when he was on that rant. But yeah, the broadcasters, they can be pretty. They know what to do whenever it's
because the poor fuckers had to sit through and watch that, and they're waiting. Like I was up last night late because I had fucking brought the little one and the missus to go see the Nicki Minaj concert. Then I drank a coffee on the way home trying to stay awake because I wasn't going to that shit. Fuck that. Like I was like, fuck this shit. I wait in the car park.
Where was it, in Dublin?
Malahide Castle. So she turns up like fucking 2 hours late, does a set for 50 minutes, like a fucking nightclub walkthrough, and pisses off. So anyway, I drank a coffee on the way home, so I was kind of wired. Like, so I was up like around 3 o'clock in the morning. I was looking on Twitter, and your man Michael Woods is a good boxing journalist, and he was giving her like a round by round like breakdown of the Shakur fight. He's like, Shakur digging to the body now in the 6th, like looking to take it up a level. And then he's like, no, another Shakur Stevenson fight. This thing is just fucking. So the poor fuckers that are covering that are waiting for the exciting moment as well. Like, they're probably the fellas fucking. They don't want to fucking miss the drama of people booing and walking out of the arena. That's like probably the only talking point of the fight. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to either fighter, but.
They actually started. They were actually. You could hear him in the first 2 or 3 rounds. They were booing, and then it sort of subsided because he did pick it up a bit, and then by the end, by the 11th and 12th, they'd realised it was back to sort of that sullen silence, and they were teaming out. So yeah. What I wanted to ask either of you was that I didn't catch an interview with Shakur. Did he do an interview after the fight?
He did, but I had about enough.
He blamed the opponent, the usual shit. Like, I'm here to fight anybody, blah blah blah. We're gonna weigh up our options, and he made it a stinker. Now it wasn't me. Like,
yeah, it's yeah, I couldn't do any more of that. So, but yeah. Anyhow, Rob, do you got any nominees?
Not really. Like Shakur, probably. You know that way. Fucking Shakur.
Did you see a t-shirt? Did you see the t-shirt he put on him?
Comes to the ring with G Herbo rapping. Has Crawford. I didn't see the t-shirt. Dominic, no. But to come to the ring with Andre Ward and Bud Crawford is kind of making a statement that, these guys are my friends. I'm training with these guys, but I'm cut from the same cloth. I know Ward got a lot of decisions, so it's not really a fucking 100% fair analogy. But the Crawford one, like, Crawford's not letting that fella finish a fight. Fucking no chance. And not saying that makes one style better than the other one, but in this era and with the build-up Shakur's got and the current climate, if you really, like, your window is very, very small and very short. The timing is timing is everything, as we say. He really needs to start fucking putting some fucking explosives on the finishes or exclamation points on the finishes or whatever fucking way you want to say it. He really has to start lighting the shit up, or he's going to be the forgotten man. Like, he can be the most skilled guy of all time. Sound like Bob Arum trying to fucking renegotiate his top rank contract, but you know, like he's doing all the talk as well. He's so active on Twitter. His mouth is running nonstop, but his talent is undeniable. But when it comes to a performance like that, who wants to fucking see him? So Shakur for me.
Well, I'll back that up because the T-shirt, Matty, that he had on him was he put it on him after the decision was announced. So it was a picture on the front of the T-shirt of Bob and Lomachenko. Bob sort of looking, holding Lomachenko's hand after a victory, and on the back the T-shirt read, "Bob is saving his son from his ass whooping." So yeah, that was pretty. I thought that was pretty classless. Like, you know, Lomachenko's at the end of coming to the end of his career, and he's still, you know, he's out of his natural. You know, he's giving away advantage by fighting it like this. So,
It's a bit Andrade, like, isn't it? Show up with a campaign T-shirt, like.
Yeah, you know, I was just thinking actually when I was talking to Steve about it. It's like, you know, it smacks of desperation. That's what it is. It's desperate. You know, if you're resorting to moves like that sort of classless move, it's there's nothing really funny about it either. It's not sort of funny. So it's not looking good, bruv.
It's it's sad times for Shakur, that's for sure. I think, given all that, I think a round idea of a nomination for him is not out of bounds here. But let's see what we had here this week. The aforementioned Mr. Stevenson. We had Amir Khan leaving his child.
CTE, as Rob said to me, CTE.
We had the pay-per-view on DAZN of Diaz against Masvidal. Jake Paul, the American icon. OnlyFans, moment of the night. This is where we are, boxing fans.
Do you know the worst, going back to that Jake Paul nomination, Matty? Do you know what the great thing about that is? The fact that of Jake Paul's presence, it actually deflects attention from the fact that it's almost as bad that the GOAT's in there as well, in the same sort of frame as Floyd and Bud. I mean,
at least she's
metal. A late one for the GOAT, by the way. I forgot about this one. Sorry, I forget about a lot of things these days, but I forgot about this one. Clarissa Shields posted footage of herself sparring against an internet troll this week, and the headline was
Charlie Zelenoff. Charlie Zelenoff, was it?
It was the female Charlie Zelenoff. It was like Charlie, who's the girl Zelenoff, you know, that way. But this
Charlie,
Charlie Zelenoff. Charlie Zelenoff took an Ellen off because she fucking got the shit bet out of her by Clarissa Shields. But the headline was the caption, as I think it was like Michael Benson or one of these characters. And it was like, Clarissa Shields sparred an internet troll. Headline is like, I almost killed this hoe. It's fucking amazing. He beat the living shit out of this one. Amazing. So good one for the GOAT this week.
Well, all right. Well, I'll tell you who wouldn't have taken Ellen off the GOAT, Rob Obanoff.
Hell no, she'd have come back with a baseball bat.
See.
Great.
It would have been like the end of the last fight in $1 Million Baby.
I really need to start fucking pen paling Obanoff, don't I? Like, I fucking dropping the ball there. Like.
Yeah, that's what you need in your life, Rob. Anyhow, Derek Chisora for becoming Nigel Farage's security. Eddie and his predictable move for Dave Allen next for Johnny Fisher. And then also we also had Mr. Fearon and his thoughts on politics and the parallels between Richie Sunak and Daniel Dubois. And let us not forget our good friend, Mr. De La Hoya.
I knew I really was. And I found out that rehab wasn't for me. I don't have a problem.
All right. Dom, who are you going for this week?
Jeez. I'm tempted to go for that Jake Paul poster, but I think I'll probably go for Oscar.
Oscar, that's one for Oscar. Honestly, Rob, it's two for Oscar. It's all academic at this point in time. What do you got?
And a winner by unanimous decision. The golden boy, Oscar De La Hoya, rough and tough.
You know what I like about this one too is it's just such a concise nominee that we can even play it a third time, don't you think?
I knew I really
was. Of course.
and I found out that rehab wasn't for me. I don't have a problem.
All right.
I
Glad
kind
to
of
hear
like
that.
that Oscar is the way he is. I know a lot of people kind of say like he's a Joe figure. It's sad to see him, and I was kind of in that. Like I was in that for a while, but he doesn't have a problem. He doesn't have a problem. He has a surgical 12-pack. He has a fucking young girlfriend. He's clearly out of his mind 4 to 5 days a week. Fucking good on him, man.
He's enjoying life.
Exactly.
I'm not here to
He's
knock
living
other
La Vida
people's
Loca.
joy. That is such a catchy fucking song, by the way. That is such an absolutely catchy song. Let's see here. Hold on, get rid of this. So I also would like to thank the people who have popped into the chat today. We got Johnny, Ray, Welshmers. Let's see here. Harvey, RS750. Josh Woogs, Michael Thompson, the good man Take Ames. Appreciate him very much for being in here. And Captain Casual in there, Mr. Damo himself. Let's see here. And MB stopped by, Arlene Burley as well.
Where's Chuckway?
Beat Bop Boop. Where's Chuck?
He's not due on for another 5 minutes.
Yep, he's gonna miss the whole thing. Dex 2024, Simon Hill. And let's see if there was one more in there. I don't want to keep scrolling. This is good conversation. JG, there we go. Perfect timing. There we go. I appreciate every one of you for being in there.
Joe Gallagher?
You never know. You never know how sneaky that would be.
JG was a secret fucking chat fucking dweller. Amazing.
There's got to be a couple around there, but anyhow, you never know, and who knows who's lurking around in the Patreon group as well. If you want to get in on the Patreon fun in the new season of the Boxing Nutters Prediction League, you can go to patreon.com/Boxing Asylum and you can get in on the fun, and we will get you in our group and everything that comes with it. It's a great bunch of guys in there, and there are some other perks of being in there as well.
Rough, tough, and rugged in there.
It is very. It's like a lion's den, basically. I would say if you're adamant about
only the strong survive.
Yeah, if you're adamant about PC culture, you're definitely gonna not like the group. And I say that with all due respect to everybody. But anyhow, and even though Rob said that he's not into politics and all that stuff, that's just a cover. I would like to say that for any reason whatsoever that Rob isn't on the show for a number of weeks at a time, there's a high likelihood that he has been picked up by Interpol. So just keep that in the back of your minds. Just throwing that out there. If it happens, that's exactly what went down.
The block got too hot.
But anyhow, I'd like to thank Des for stopping in and hanging out with us today, as well as Dominic and Rob. Andy is on vacation. He is going to be back.
Germans.
Yeah, he's going to be back here in a few weeks. I think he's having a good time. I hope he's really enjoying himself.
I hope he's having like fucking the best German beer, fucking down in a man on his downtime. I hope he's fucking skulled.
Pretzels, beer, and sausage, man.
And here's hoping the Dutch do the needful on Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
We're talking, Robert.
I'd be lying to you guys if I said I hadn't researched a schnapps tour of the Black Forest before. So it's just one of those things. It sounds like
he's dying to bury a body. This guy somewhere.
I'm just looking to
probably got Nicola Sturgeon with him.
Jesus, but anyhow. But Andy will be back here a little bit later on. We are going to be back next week, and then we're going to take the week off after that. But we will come back right after that, and we'll review some action that's gone on at the end of the month. Remember, we're only about less than a month away from the big card in Los Angeles put on by Turkey Al Sheikh with Crawford Madrimov headlining. There's a lot going on there. I learned that card's going to be getting kicked off at about 9 or 10 your time, I think. So it'll be interesting. You'll be able to catch a little bit of this stuff going on.
Hold on, Matty. That card's going to be like in the afternoon for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to a concert that night. So that's
Who are
another
you going to
story.
see, Matty?
I'm going to see my favorite band, Reckless Kelly, on their farewell tour, but they're going to be the backing band for the great Steve Earle.
It's a great farewell tour. I've never heard of him.
Steve Earle, you know the song Galway Girl?
Oh yeah, of course.
That's Steve Earle wrote that fucking song, my friend.
Really? I'd
Yes,
love to punch him in the mouth. What a fucking shitty song.
When I always sing it, I say because
Which one? Are the Ed Sheeran Galway Girl or the
No, not that one yet.
What an asshole. I hate that song, man. It's fucking hate it. Good for him.
Yeah, I asked you, friend, what's a fella to do when her hair was black and her eye was blue?
No,
he's not got a heat wave there, Monty.
Yeah. What's that?
He's clearly never been to Galway, this fella that wrote that.
What was that, Dom?
Have you not got a heat wave at the minute out there?
It's supposed to be 106 degrees Fahrenheit on Friday and Saturday, which is a lot. I don't give a fuck what it is Celsius. Otherwise, it's a lot. That's you're approaching like Middle East kind of temperatures. So that sucks ass. Not looking forward to it.
It's going to be hot for us as well. Not for Robert, because he's not near any bonfires. But this time next week we'll be having the bonfires, or next Thursday.
Yeah, it's my birthday this day next week, and they never invite me to them bonfires that I have up there. I'm starting to feel left out.
What the hell?
Some hate off them.
You used to be invited to every party, and now they don't invite you anywhere, Rob. What the heck has happened?
Exactly. I'm falling off. I'm washed.
I guess we're just not cool anymore. Damn it. But anyhow, for all of the uncool people that were on the podcast today, I appreciate you. All the listeners appreciate you, and all the nutters in the group, I appreciate you too. I am your host, Matt DiGianardo. We will catch you guys again next week.
We'll never forget.
Ja, dat is gedaan.
Go to animals!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. You're a fucking bum. You're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7-year ain't. 7-year ain't.
I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love boxing sounds, as simple as that.